I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Livingston Parish Council. This is our regular meeting, June 9th, 2022. It is 6:04. Mr. McMorris, you have the invocation, so could everyone please rise?
Bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, we come for you tonight, hoping that you'll give us the wisdom, the knowledge to make the right decisions tonight, Lord. Lord, I want to thank you for having Mr. Bubba back with us. He's getting back to his old self again. We appreciate him being back to serve his part of the parish. Lord, we'd like to ask all the prayer warriors out there tonight. My brother-in-law, it's in his final days, so I ask you to help him out and to lift him up. And pray for this council. We all come as one to make the right decisions for the parish. Lord, we give you the honor and the praise. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Harris, can you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Miss Sandy, call roll, please.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Gillette.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. King. Here. Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. McMorris.
I'm here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Harris. Here. Mr. Girlinghouse.
Here. All right, this time I'd like to remind everyone, if you have a cell phone, to please turn it off or mute it. Public input, anyone wishing to address an item, we allow you to come up, state your name and address. You'll be given 3 minutes. And while we're on that topic, I know I made an announcement the last time that we were going to start having a sign-in sheet. And I think there's been some discussion that's come back to me about it. What I want to make clear is we're trying to make sure that the people that come here to speak on an agenda item has plenty of time to, yeah, that's the cell phone, Mr. Lapp. You take care of that, Randy.
She works for Layton, not the council.
So what I'm going to propose is if you have something you want to speak on the agenda, I'm going to give you 4 minutes if you sign up. You can call this office and tell them, I'm coming, please put me on the list to sign up. So if you're going to be late, just call in. And then we're going to allow 2 minutes if you just hear something and you want to speak on it. So this will allow more time for the people that are actually here to speak on it. And I'm going to ask my fellow councilmen that when someone comes to this podium, it's their time. Allow them to finish their 4 minutes or their 2 minutes before any questions are asked or any kind of confrontation back and forth with them. And the same thing to the people. If you ask a question, remember, that's your time. So you're losing your time by asking a question. So come up here, state what you need to state, and we want to make sure people have plenty of time to get to say what they want to say.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Can I clarify something in that?
Sure.
I would say, sorry. If you have a questions, obviously you're going to have questions to come up. I would recommend putting those at the end of your time, allotted time.
Yeah.
That way, you can still ask the questions because you want questions to. I'm sure you want to ask questions. Just put it at the end of your allotted time, just as personal. That way, your time doesn't get taken up that way. So.
And we're looking into getting a clock because I know it's hard for people to try to think in their mind, how long have I been speaking? Because I know sometimes when I speak, you're like, oh, I'm running out of time, So we'll have something soon where you'll be able to see your time while you're up there speaking, so that if you do get off a track and you see, hey, I got 1 minute, I need to get back on track, hurry up and get out what I need to say. So we're trying to make sure that y'all do get the time to make sure you say what you want us to hear. All right. Okay. Agenda 8, adopt a resolution to move precincts 24, 24B, 24C, 28A, and 28B from Lewis Vincent Elementary to its former location, whereby establishing placement of precincts 24, 24B, and 24C at Southside Junior High, and precincts 28A and 28B at Southside Elementary. I'm pretty sure this was because of the
Flood.
flood.
Yeah.
We had put everybody in one area, now they're going back to their original precincts.
Mr. Harris couldn't be here this evening, but I told him we do this all the time. This is not anything.
Okay.
He was going out of
So
town.
I will need a motion for resolution. Mr. Talbot? Second from Mr. Girlinghouse. Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right. Item 9, adopt a resolution to change the precinct location, precinct 35 and 35A from Walker Freshman High to Walker Junior High, located in the Walker Junior High cafeteria, addressed at 13443 Burgess Avenue. And this is the same thing. Looks like we're just moving it back to where it was.
Changed their name.
Changed the name.
The
Changed the
Secretary
name,
of State
okay.
has asked if we would adopt something in writing as a governing authority to say that the name has changed for their records.
Yeah, you know, the old high school became Walker Junior High, then it became Walker Freshman High, and then it changed back to Walker Junior High. So precinct's going to stay in the same location, just because they
Names.
changed the name again.
Paperwork deal for the Secretary
Yeah,
of State.
so that's it, and I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse, second by Mr. Wascom. Any comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, item 10, Acadian Ambulance. Mr. Dwayne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come before you tonight. We have two things we do annually. First one is to request a permit to operate. It's part of your ordinance that we submit a packet. That packet was submitted to council clerk, and I request that we be allowed a permit to operate for the next 12 months.
Comments? Mr. Talbot?
I'd like to make a motion to defer that to the next meeting so they have time for the board to meet the group that oversees Acadian.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. King. Is there any other comments from
Is
the
that,
council?
is that,
I heard you, Mr.
is that gonna
Dwayne.
mess you up, Mr. Dwayne? I mean,
No, sir, as long as the permit is granted prior to the end of June, so you have one more meeting that you can vote to give us a permit or not to give us a permit.
when's that board supposed to meet?
I'll have to call it, and we'll try to get it in before
Before the next meeting?
You're on that board, Mark?
I share the board.
You chair the board. Do you see any reason why this? Okay.
All right, so everybody's good? All right. Any comments from the public on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Dwayne.
Then the second request would be for the membership program, but certainly until we know for certain we have a permit to operate, it's a moot point to get
Or it as
permission
well.
for our
And the motion to
membership.
defer.
All right, so we got a motion from Mr. Garlinghouse to defer it as
To
well.
the next meeting, yeah.
Second by Mr. King. Any comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll see you at the next meeting, Mr.
Yes,
Dwayne.
sir. Thank you.
All right, number 11, adopt the minutes.
We defer that one, but take the next one. The 26th are
So
done,
we're
but
going
the
to defer
12th
the
is,
May 12th one?
please.
All right, so I need a motion to adopt the minutes for May 26th, regular meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. Harris. Any comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right. Parish President's report. That you?
I guess it is. I guess because I look better, I'm not
Ah,
sure.
well, you know.
So I didn't know I really had anything tonight. so-
Introduction of an ordinance setting the millage rates.
That's it.
Is that being deferred 2 weeks?
You talking about the
We're gonna
president's
defer
stuff?
that.
Deferred?
For the
That's
introduction.
fine.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so we'll just defer that? Everybody's good with that? We don't, I mean, I don't think we have to, y'all want to vote? You want to make a motion to defer it?
I'll make a motion to defer.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. McMorris. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll defer that. Livingston Parish Grants Department.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council. A on that is a resolution to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the assessor's office. We're using ARPA funds. It's to correct some issues with their computer system, a cybersecurity issue. So I'm asking for a resolution to move forward with that.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mack. Is there any comments from the public on this? Any more comments from the council?
I talked to Jeff today, and he's gonna be here at the next meeting when we do it, so.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. 13B.
All right, B is just an introduction of an ordinance to purchase another piece of property through the mitigation grant.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Girlinghouse.
Sandy got to read that by title.
Yep, Ms. Sandy, read that.
This will be proposed ordinance 22-26. This is an ordinance to acquire movable property for the Parish of Livingston pursuant to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, project number FMA 4277, PJLA 2018-025, Livingston Parish. The public hearing will be on June the 23rd at 6 p.m. So y'all did want to vote to introduce it?
Yes. I mean, we don't have to vote. I mean, we had a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's it.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. Livingston Parish Planning Commission. Mr. Sam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, first on the agenda is a subdivision with improvements. Jubin Gardens, this is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, Forest Gillette Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Jubin Gardens.
Motion by Mr. Harris. A second by Mr. King. So the only question I have is all this was in before the moratorium took place? All right. All right, any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Any opposed?
Next on the agenda is a Servitude Revocation. This is Allen Trails, Lot 82, Servitude and Revocation, and this is in Mr. John Wascom's area. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the Servitude Revocation for Lot 82 of Allen Trails, and we do have all the letters for acceptance.
So this is going to be an introduction of an ordinance, so Ms. Sandy, you want to read that by title?
This will be proposed ordinance 22-27. This is an exhibit showing the servitude to be revoked located on Lot 82, Allen Trails Subdivision. An existing drainage servitude varies in size, located in Section 76, Township 6 South, Range 2 East, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, for Kenny Lindsay Construction, LLC, being more particularly described herein. The public hearing will be on June the 23rd at 6 p.m.
Wascom, do you need to vote on that? It's an introduction.
We don't have
We
to,
don't have
unless
to.
you want to.
That's up to you. It's in your district, if you want to vote on it or not.
We'll have a chance next meeting.
All right, we'll move on.
Okay, next on the agenda is a commercial development, Welcome Convenience Store. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district. Off of Buddy Ellis Road is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the Welcome Convenience Store.
Damn, that's on the corner.
It is.
Buddy Ellis
Yes,
and
sir.
Jubin, right?
On the
It's right there to turnabout.
Be across from the Shell Station.
Yes, sir.
I'm all for that motion.
All right, so motion by Mr. Harris. Second by Mr. Gerlinghouse. Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, next on the agenda is another commercial development, Cosmic Snow. This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district, LA 16 and the OLA 16. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the site drawing for Cosmic Snow, and that's just, that's a snowball stand.
Talbot?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. McMorris. Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Next on the agenda is another commercial development, Heavenly Snowballs West. This is in Mr. Scooter King's district, Eden Church Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the site drawings for Heavenly Snowball West.
Yeah, I'll make that.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Harris. We must love snowballs here. We must love them, huh? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, next on the agenda is another commercial development, Precise Towing and Recovery. This is in Mr. Randy Delat's district, LA 22, near the Amite River Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the site drawings for Precise Towing and Recovery.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Gerlinghouse. Is there any comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, next one is the multifamily development, Oakview Village. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, Jubin Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Oakview Village.
All right, motion by Mr. Harris. Second by Mr. King. Is there any comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, next on the agenda is a commercial development, Horsham Chemical Expansion, Mr. Scooter King's district, Eden Church Road and Summer Lane. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Bertram Chemical contingent on the fire suppression concern being addressed. I think our chairman, Mr. Joe, had some concerns there, and I think they worked it out.
Yeah, can I get Joe up to talk about this?
Come on down, Joe.
You're being summoned. That's like the fire suppression on site. I know that was the only thing we had real questions about.
Yeah.
Joe Kozrowski, 10783, Highway 1033, Council District 5. All right, we approved it in the Planning Commission the other night contingent upon the fact that we required an independent water study from an independent company. They brought in Austin Fire to determine that they did not have sufficient water flow to put out a worst-case scenario fire with the expansion. So we are now working with them and Austin Fire to come up with the size of the tank that they're going to have to put on, pressurized tank with pumps to maintain for 1 hour their worst-case scenario. Looks like the tank's going to be somewhere between 250 and 300,000 gallons of water on site. That it's only on the fact that gets approved.
That's okay with you?
That'll be fine. The water flow there is about 2,300 gallons a minute on that 8-inch main from Ward 2 water, but it's not near enough to sustain a 1 hour fire.
Yeah. Okay.
So, we ask that you just take our recommendation and contingent upon the fact that the water supply is there. All right.
That motion.
Joe, you want to explain how y'all got to that 2,300 gallon a minute deal?
Yeah, we came up with different numbers to begin with because we used a different form the Insurance Rating Commission requires us to do it, the fire hydrant flow test a certain way. So we do, and when in actual live firefighting, we use a different formula. They used a different formula, which was almost 1,000 gallons off of our formula for the flow. But when it was explained, they used the residual pressure that we came up with also. They came up with the same pressure. Then they put it into a computer model and actually dropped the residual pressure to the NFPA minimum, which is 20 PSI, which brought the water flow up to within 100 gallons a minute of what they had. So we're in the middle of, adjusting some of our water flows to use the same model that they do, especially if we adopt what we just did in the last meeting and use the NFPA 101, which will give us the ability to drop to 20 PSI on the residual pressure. So then we'll have a different number,
Closer to what you needed.
closer to what we need.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Joe.
All right,
Yeah, I'll
so you're gonna make the motion to wait,
yeah, the way Joe.
The way they-
Yeah, they passed it. Yes.
okay?
Hey, Scooter,
Sir.
how many jobs is going to create for the parish, you know?
Tracy,
You wanna come on up and let us know? We got the boss lady here. She can explain it all to us.
That was a bunch the other night, but I can't remember the number.
Tracy Simmons, I'm the site director for Burson Chemicals, LLC. Quality jobs to the parish, we originally projected as many as 14, and we have already surpassed that commitment, and actually probably up to 10 positions. So already committed to sales. Project costs have gone up substantially, as you can imagine, but, and we do support and working very closely with Joe and Chief Weaver in identifying those issues. So I have meetings next week. We've had some testing done this week. We've got to pull in more to water because I live 5 minutes from the plant. We want to make sure this is a safe operation for everyone. So we support the
So thank you for coming to the parish, offering more jobs, but could you tell us how the people could apply if they're looking for a job?
Absolutely. I'm actually reaching out to some of the technical colleges, but they can go to www.vertellus, it's V as in Victor, ERTELLUS.com. So we're Burson Chemicals, a Vertellus company, and then there's a career site, and we have several open positions.
So that's operations
We have a
degree?
mechanical engineering, an environmental position open, engineering manager, instrumentation technician. I have 6 operator positions open and a partridge in a pear tree. So we need a lot of help, so.
Okay, so
I need
it's right on
admin.
point. We appreciate that because we have a lot of Livingston Parish people that has them degrees.
We're
So,
actually working with
be great,
North
thanks.
Shore right there off of Burgess. Yeah, so y'all send them our way because we're screening right
We
now.
appreciate y'all being here.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, we had a motion from Mr. King, and did we have a second from Mr. Girlinghouse?
Well, you did, but I'll second.
Any more comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Sam.
Last on the agenda is a subdivision with improvements. This is a revision, TRC Timber. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the revised and second preliminary plat for Belmont 1 and 2.
Not through with that thing yet.
This is just a sewer thing, guys. That's what they're
Yeah.
revising, the sewer
They
station.
laying all the sewer pipe in there now. I'll go ahead and offer that.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Harris, second from Mr. Girlinghouse. Any comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sam.
Okay, here we go. 22.
All right. Now let's get down to business.
Number
All right.
27.
We ready for this?
Yes.
All right, 15 is a public hearing. This is adoption of LP Ordinance number 22-08, Section 125-22, provisions for subdivision street entrances. Adding additional entrance requirements for the number of lots in a subdivision. All right.
That would be me.
Can I read it by title real fast? This is proposed ordinance 22-08. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by amending Section 125-22, provisions for subdivision street entrances as follows.
All right. So essentially, this is just a strengthening of an ordinance that we put in place probably 2 or 3 years ago, where we changed the number of, we reduced the number of houses that were allowed per entrance. So I'll just read directly from what's being submitted. When the cumulative combined number of lots is between 200 and 399, 2 street entrances shall be required. When the cumulative combined number of lots is between 400 and 599, 3 street entrances will be required. When the cumulative combined number of lots exceeds 600, 4 entrances shall be required. If a 4-lane boulevard is constructed, 1 required entrance can be eliminated for the requirement. This is an adjustment we made discussing from the Ordinance Committee meeting. As long as the boulevard extends past 200 lots, essentially doubling it for the initial jump from 1 to 2. So, and also in this, we went the entrance connect, all entrances must connect to an approved main road and be at least 75 yards apart from each other. We went from 50 to 75, so we're basically moving the entrances further apart. Questions?
Any comments from the public on this? Comments from the council? Mr.
We
Talbot?
need to amend the ordinance. That blue part you see where it says as long as the boulevard extends past 200 lots, I want to offer that as an amendment to the ordinance.
Motion to amend.
So you want to motion it?
To amend to-
accept it as amended?
Yes.
We got to amend it first, and we can accept it.
Okay.
Was it somebody moved to adopt already? You need to move to adopt the original, and then move to amend, and then.
So we got to adopt it, then amend it, then adopt it again?
No,
You just need a motion to adopt it, then a motion to amend it.
All right, so motion to
Motion
adopt
to
by
adopt.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
So second.
Second by Mr. Talbot. All right.
Motion to amend.
Now, motion to amend, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Andy, you got that?
wasn't correct, guys.
No?
Wasn't correct.
I don't think, let's just,
We amend it, and then we adopt it as amended, is usually what we do.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
been amended. Let's adopt as, motion to adopt as amended. How's that?
I think we got to.
We vote to amend it? Yeah.
Chris says we got to make a motion to adopt. Then, without voting on it, then we can amend it. And then we can make a motion to amend it. Is that what you said, Chris?
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what we just did, right?
So Tracy made the motion to accept. I made the motion to amend. We need to vote on that. Then we can vote on the motion, then we
Okay.
can,
All right.
Yeah. It's correct.
Andy, are you good with that? You catching on?
So y'all are voting to adopt it first.
As a-
And-
no.
no.
Just a motion to adopt, and before you vote on that, there's a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor. So you vote on the amendment first.
Yes. Just like if you do anything else, someone brings something
think we
forward
need
and
to
then.
If y'all don't mind.
Just vote to amend it and then adopt it.
Yeah, just vote to amend it, and then we'll adopt it.
Agree. Let's vote.
All right, Randy? That's
No,
what you're
that's,
saying?
the way I see it is that we misunderstanding, I think, what he's saying. You have to have a motion before you can amend the motion, and that's all he was saying. You do have to vote on amending the motion first.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a motion when Gary asked to amend it, and he was trying to clarify that, okay?
so Tracy made the motion. Take away my second, I'll make the motion to amend.
Okay? And I second that.
I don't think
No,
that's what he's saying.
you're falling off.
I don't
You're
think
falling
that's
off
what
the
he's
train.
saying.
Listen to me. When he make, it's not a motion unless you have a second. Once you have a motion, before you become and vote on that motion, you can amend it. And that's what we have to
That's what we
do.
did the first time. Okay, so Tracy made a motion, I seconded it.
Now
Now,
someone can
before we
amend it.
vote, I'm gonna make a motion to amend.
That's correct.
Seconded it.
And
That's
I
just what we
seconded it.
did.
So let's vote on that, okay.
I mean, that's,
That's what they do.
so we're gonna vote to amend it as written
Right.
on here.
As long as the boulevard extends past 200 lots, which comes after the requirement in G.
You got the amendments, Andy?
Yeah, she's got it right there in front of her. I gave her a copy.
Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 16. This will be a public hearing.
We got to adopt it as amended first.
Wait, I need to close the public hearing on that one too. I didn't do that. So I'm gonna close the public hearing on 15. All right. So, what was that, Gary, you want to do?
We got to vote on it as amended. We didn't do that. We voted for the amendment. Now we need to vote on it as amended.
Right.
As I understand it. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me I'm wrong.
Motion to vote on is amended.
I second.
Second by Mr. Talbot.
That's correct.
All in favor? Aye. Is any opposed?
All legal, that's right.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, 16, this is another public hearing, so we're now entering a public hearing. Section 125-9, submittals, addressing waiver requests to re-subdivide in subdivisions with and without improvements after the final plat has been signed or filed. Ms. Sandy, you can read that by title?
Proposed ordinance 2209, this is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 Subdivision Regulations, Section 125-9, submittals specifically related to the final plat in subdivisions with improvements and subdivisions without improvements of the Code of Ordinances and for the Parish of Livingston.
Talk about it.
Is there any comments from the public on this? All right, we're now closing the public hearing. Mr. King?
Yeah, okay, I'm having an issue with this list on this, because on the trailer list, I'm running into an issue where I got a waiver in 19 for a lady for a trailer on Amite Church Road, and now there's been 2 permits for trailers in a subdivision that don't have any trailers in it because it was added to the list. And we're working through the issue on that. Layton told me he would try and fix it. My bad, it was Lot 1 on Amite Church Road of Linda Lee subdivision, which I didn't think was on. There's only 2 lots for the whole subdivision on Amite Church Road. So if we make this list, we're gonna run into a major problem. Because every single one of them will go, and they'll automatically just get a waiver for resubbing in a.
So the intent was to stop clogging the council meeting,
Right.
right? So the question is, and Mr. Moody's gonna have to address this for us, can we have the councilman notified if there is a waiver request within his district, and if it is on the list and there's not an issue? Because the intent of Mr. King on that trailer was to grant a trailer
trailer.
on Amite Church Road because there were other trailers on Amite Church Road. And even though that lot was part of Linda Lee subdivision, it was really not.
And that's how I described it during the meeting. This one trailer, you know, and we voted, a lady's house flooded and she had to tear it down. She couldn't afford to build a new house, but she could afford a really nice double wide, porches, everything. Came out nice. But now I'm getting calls because there's 2 trailers in a subdivision that don't have any trailers in it. I mean, none. And it's a problem. But if we make it the exact same way on these resubs, the same thing could happen. You know, without us knowing, you know, we wouldn't even know. And it's no fault of anybody. It's my fault. I accept it.
What actually does this ordinance, how does this ordinance
It'll just
pertain?
say that if we subdivide one in a subdivision, it goes on the list and we never hear about it again. If they can resub as many, as long as it's on that list.
You're saying there's a catch to that, right?
Yeah, well, it might be. It may not ever rear its ugly head, but mine's coming up to a problem for a subdivision, you know?
Randy, as an example, if you had a subdivision that had a lot 1 on a state highway and you wanted to make that lot, you subdivide that lot and put, 2 commercial developments or office park, then all of a sudden, once that lot got subdivided, everything within the subdivision is subject to be subdivided, even though the intent was to subdivide it only because it was on a state highway.
Had plenty of room to do it.
Which is what happened on the Amy Church Road situation. A trailer was allowed to be put there because if you go up down Amy Church Road,
Bunch
there are
of 'em.
trailers on it. But when you go back in the subdivision, there weren't any trailers, now there are 2.
So what
Soon
do
to
we
be
think the
4.
fix is?
Just don't do it. You just get rid of
You
it.
want to table the whole ordinance, or?
Have them where they still have to come to us for a waiver.
Yeah, I think so, guys, unless we come up with something else. I don't want this to happen.
So I think every one of us fall underneath this with our, the older subdivisions,
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
I know I have about 7 in my area where people need to put a trailer, and it's divided into a subdivision. And it really makes it tough, so Scooter, I think you need to table this, man.
Yeah,
And let's
yeah, I
talk
think
about
we
it.
just.
Well, how about we just send it back to the ordinance
Let's
committee?
defer it and send it back to
Yeah, let's
ordinance
do,
and try
that'd
to
be fine.
resolve it.
to me.
Put it on
You're
you.
welcome,
Well,
Tracy.
I mean, there's gotta be some,
There's some fix there.
There's gotta be a way to
I
get a
think
second look at
notification, but it's
it
gonna put
without
more
having
on the
to bring.
permit department, you know?
There'll be a way to get a second look without bringing it before the council, make it more administrative and have the.
Oh,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Mr.
Oh, well.
Mr. Harris?
They just moved it was a used trailer. It's not, I went and looked at it. It's not in bad shape. But they just moved one in Live Oak Acres. And house there. But the house is going to be demolished, is what the guy said.
You don't own the property, can you?
And he said it's probably gonna take him 2 years to demolish it. And then he's gonna build another house there and move the trailer out. Do we have anything to cover that, or have it in writing?
Just gotta
Give them a temporary
just gotta
permit.
give him
It's just a
temporary
hardship
waiver.
deal.
Yeah, just
It's not a problem. We do them.
we can do
He'd
that.
already got a permit, but I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ours is 18 months, huh?
I second your motion to table it.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
So let's take.
Yeah, and you guys work
well,
on it.
All in favor? All right. 16, 17, can we just stay in a public hearing on all
You
this?
can say, just read them all by title, open the public hearing, read them all by title. Anybody wants to speak on any of these
All right,
matters?
we're gonna do that. We're now entering a public hearing. So, item 17, Ms. Sandy, you wanna read that by title?
This is proposed ordinance 22-10, an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of the Livingston Parish Subdivision Regulations, Article 1, in general, Section 125-13, procedures for subdivisions with improvements as follows. Keep on going, right?
Y'all wanna just
Yeah,
keep
just
on?
do them one
Yep.
at a time.
Let's just do them one at a time. We'll just leave it open and do them one at a time. All right, any
So this is one of those that we need to amend. This is one of those that need to be, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
It's just a public hearing, so
Oh,
we
we
just
gotta
let
close the
people
public hearing
discuss.
first. Well, we're not
don't
gonna close
have
the
to,
public.
but I mean, I
Any
thought you can
action
get
in
all
the
the public
public hearing.
hearings done
All right,
and then
let's
go
do that.
down.
Let's just go ahead and read. Sandy, you want to read them all? All right, so we're going to read. All
That's
right,
gonna be
so,
confusing.
does anybody have any comments on the one that she just read?
And this one's about just requirement to erect signs.
Guys, this is about the public responding on the agenda item. That's all we gotta worry about. She reads it by title, the chairman's gonna recognize the public, they're gonna come up here, and we don't have to do any action till we get out of the public hearing.
We're going to give them their opportunity to speak. All right. Mr. Sandy?
We're on 11, 2211?
You just
Number
read
18.
17, so this is 18, yeah.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance
22-11.
22-11, an ordinance to amend Chapter 130 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish Telecommunications, Section 130-1, Regulations of Telecommunication Towers as follows.
All right. So anybody in the public have any comments on the telecommunication towers? All right. 12, next one, 2213.
This is proposed ordinance 22-13, an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by creating Section 125-3.3, required studies and statistical data for development as follows.
Comments on that one?
This is
14.
proposed ordinance 22-14, an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by creating Section 125-20.1, fire protection review as follows.
Comments on that? All right, Ms. Sandy, on 2215?
Proposed ordinance 22-15, this is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 Subdivision Regulations of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston in its entirety. And with that one, nobody wants to speak on the
Any
entirety of
comments?
the...
Oh, wait, we got comments.
What was this on? What number?
Kylo Bell, 18052 Louisiana Highway 444. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to tell you what it feels like. It feels like we're losing an opportunity to speak after we get to hear you guys, because we don't even know what amendments are going to come up to any of these. Like, we're running down all of this, and it feels like an attempt to not have public input. And so I'm questioning is what's the point of having a public hearing if our comment is required before we even hear what is going to be discussed and talked about and possibly even amended. And I know there's a lot of discussion about how some things are going to change, and hopefully that goes good for us, because I think a lot of people out here are making valid comments, and a dialogue should be encouraged. So I don't know if I want to comment on any of these things at this
Go ahead,
time.
Randy.
Let me help you. You have a valid concern, but I assure you that's not what's happening.
Okay.
What's happening, let me tell you about the procedure, what we work under. We have so many of them, we got 37 of them, okay? It's getting confusing going back and forth. When she reads it by title, anyone in the ordinance does have that opportunity to talk, to put any input they want in that public hearing space. When it gets out to public hearing, does not mean you don't have an opportunity to make a comment when the chairman recognizes you. The next one, for instance, is going to be school board. The school board, is Devin still here, right?
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, he's going to come up and he's going to make a public comment and add something on the school board, okay? When we get through with all the public hearings and we're going to talk, we're going to put some amendments in those public hearings. You're going to get an opportunity when the chairman recognizes you to say anything you want about those amendments. We cannot discuss anything during a public hearing, but the people can. You will be able to discuss the things when he recognizes you and what you want to say. Our whole goal is that public meetings requires us to have a public hearing on an ordinance. And so it's advertised and we're having it, and it's almost a formality. And this is the first time we did it this way, because it's the first time I know we got 20-some ordinances here at the first time. We never had that many. And we are just trying to get everyone an opportunity and not confuse them. If we do them, each individual one, the first one she read, the last one she read, when she said this is in its entirety, that covers so much, we could be going back and forth on something we already covered. And so we're going to try to just pertain it to that one particular one, that item. So when she reads that, the next one is the school impact. When she reads that, if anybody in the ordinance wants to comment on the school impact study, I recommend they wait until after Mr. Devin makes his presentation. He's part of the public. When we get there and we have our opportunity to vote or not vote, I know there's 6 or 7 I'm seeing right here I'm making amendments on. Y'all would be able to, when I describe those amendments, y'all would be able to have an opportunity when the chairman recognizes you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more comments on that? All right, so that's, that was 2215? Or was it? Yeah, so we're on 2216 now, right?
This is proposed ordinance 2216, an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by creating Section 125-20.2 School Impact Study as follows.
Okay.
Catch up.
Devin Gregoire, 31262 Old Baton Rouge Highway, Hammond, Louisiana. School board member for District 9. At our previous school board meeting last week, we adopted a resolution, and with your permission, I'd like to read it into the record for y'all now. Resolution of the Livingston Parish School Board supporting documentation for the proposed Livingston Parish Government Impact Fee. Whereas Livingston Parish School Board continually works to become an exemplary school district in which every student achieves personal success through rigorous, engaging curriculum and collaborative supported systems. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board continually works towards the development of school personnel in Livingston Parish. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board continually works to ensure effective and efficient use of public funds for the benefit of students, personnel, and patrons of the Livingston Parish school system. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board and the Parish of Livingston as a whole, largely due to the aforementioned, has become a sought-after destination for families in the surrounding and far-reaching areas of the state of Louisiana and beyond. And it is a great place to live, raise a family, and have your children educated. Whereas the Livingston Parish government has recognized the rapid and increased growth of the parish population, as the 2020 United States Census showed a growth rate that is 4 times the state average. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board has a legal responsibility and duty to provide a free and appropriate public education, FAPE, to all parish school-age children despite the rapid growth and the prospects of overcrowding in our schools. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board will have to provide school buildings, transportation, maintenance, furniture, equipment, personnel, and all other immoralities to the ever-expanding school population in compliance with FAPE requirements. Whereas the Livingston Parish government has publicly discussed the implementation of a parish-wide impact fee or fees associated with the increased residential development and housing units in the parish in an effort to generate revenues to partially account for the financial burdens on all aspects of parish government, the other political subdivisions, municipalities, and agencies located in the parish of Livingston. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board supports the implementation of a parish-wide impact fee as noted above, recognizing it to be a parish government fee to be implemented, collected, and distributed by and as directed by the Livingston Parish Council and government. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board desires to be a part of the overall impact fee structure that is being considered, as the education of our parish's school-age children is a vital part of many parish-wide considerations that comes with the type of growth experienced and expected in Livingston Parish. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board, in an effort to provide the Livingston Parish government with information and data, has studied and evaluated the impact and potential impact on school systems resulting from the recent and expected growth in Livingston Parish. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board identifies a minimum per pupil impact of $4,900 as documented and supported by the state MFP per pupil allocation from the 2020-2021 budget letter, which is based upon the state average of the local contribution of the 69 Louisiana school districts and the increased cost of transportation and construction associated therewith. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board also identifies a larger per pupil impact fee of $94.97, which is based upon the same state MFP per pupil allocation as noted above, but it also includes additional state funding entitlements of the weighted student allotments as calculated across the first 3 levels of the MFP funding. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board, as a point of reference and understanding, recognizes that the total actual cost and financial impact of educating a single student from kindergarten through 12th grade is in the approximate total of $123,461 per pupil. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board, as a further point of reference and understanding, has conservatively established a per pupil impact fee range based upon just a single year of education, despite the requirement that each student be educated from kindergarten through 12th grade. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board, in an effort to inform and support Livingston Parish government relative to the proposed parish-wide impact fee, submits that public education portion of the overall impact fee contemplated by the Livingston Parish government should include a consideration of the Livingston Parish School Board calculated per pupil range of $4,900 to $9,497. Whereas the Livingston Parish School Board recognizes the ever-changing dynamics of local, state, and national economies, as well as other factors that affect development and expansion, and it supports an implementation of periodic impact studies, evaluations, and expert analysis that are concluded and reported at least once each 5-year period. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Livingston Parish School District, by action of its duly elected governing authority and its specially called board meeting of May 30th, 2022, does hereby support and request that the Livingston Parish government consider a per pupil impact range of $4,900 to $9,497 as the public education related portion of its overall parish-wide impact fee structure. Finally, let it be resolved that a copy of this resolution be provided to each member of the Livingston Parish Council, the parish president for the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana. By motion of board member Dr. Devin Gregoire, duly seconded by Jan Benson, the resolution was adopted unanimously on 30th of May, 2022.
I do.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the public will know, once you collect the fees, where would that money be spent? Would it be spent in that district where that subdivision is going to be built when you collect the $4,900?
That is still a matter for debate, depending on the amounts. We don't have a set allocation of where it goes yet, because we don't know what's going to be impacted initially and what schools need the most improvements at what time.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think if when you collect a fee, I'm looking at my attorney here, but it has to be spent in that district. It has to be spent in that district.
If it's a parish impact fee, wouldn't it be spent in the parish?
No, these impact fees are very, very tightly controlled, and you have to demonstrate it was that particular subdivision is going to impact whatever infrastructure requirements, whether it be a fire station, a school, et cetera, and you have to show that it has to be spent where those kids and where that subdivision would have impacted it. So it can't just go into the parish or the school board's general budget. It has to be kept in a special account and allocated and accounted for. So unless that's part of the ordinance, then that's going to be challenged and won't last very long.
What's going to happen, guys, we're going to have a lot of discussion on this, and we'll probably wind up tabling it because we still got some things to put together on this. But it's a public hearing, and by law, we're required to have this public hearing. And when we get all our information together, I'm jumping the gun, but I just know it's going to be tabled.
Yeah.
Also, just so you know, part of our impact studies will have to include the possible redistricting of school boundaries to accommodate for students. So that's why we don't have it in a specific district, because if we have to redistrict over here and send these kids to another school because there's not enough capacity over here, then we need to make that school. Even though it was allocated in this district, it's causing the impact because we're having to allocate people from outside that area into another school. So a rezoning would cause us to have to not put the impact fee to that that specific school, but to another school, if that makes sense.
It does.
I have a question.
Mr. Talbot?
When you, the right at the end,
Yes, sir.
did the $4,900 to a certain range, was it a per child or per lot impact? I thought I heard per child, and
So our assessment is a per pupil impact. This is for y'all's consideration when you decide what kind of impact you're gonna do. This is what it cost us per pupil. And in addition to that, the impact fee can only be used for buildings or equipment. And in essence, the equipment, buses, that's the only real equipment that the impact fee can be used for. So when you take that into consideration, it takes 900 square foot to create a classroom. And at $300 to $320 a square foot right now, which is what all of my architects have been telling me what pricing is right now, you divide that by 25 kids per classroom, and you get $11,500 per student impact. You add on a bus to that, the transportation cost of a bus, which is $100,000 for a new bus. You divide that by 60 kids on a bus, and you get a $1,500. So as an additional consideration, a true impact of building a classroom and getting a bus for them to get to that classroom averages out to about $13,000 per kid. Now, as far as an impact fee, that's for y'all to decide. All we're telling you is what it cost us per kid and what the impact on us per kid is going to be.
We can't fix it with $4,900 anyhow.
Well, I mean, look, we don't know how many kids are associated with a lot. So ultimately, we can generate an impact fee for lot, but we can't generate an impact fee for kid. So we're kind of at a conundrum right here, so.
Well, there is a way of determining that. Using the census data, you can come up with a per lot, per kid quantifier of anywhere from 0.2 to 1.8.
Yeah, I was under the impression.
That can be done by taking the current census data, removing the retirement homes and assisted living, and then you can calculate per kid per lot that way.
I was under the impression in some of our meetings, I was under the impression in some of our meetings that we had that basically when you saw a subdivision come online, you all looked at that subdivision and knew how many kids were coming out of that subdivision each grade level or each.
We have a rough estimator that we utilize, and these numbers go back for years and years and years, have been lost to the sands of time. But it's you take the number of lots divided by 3, that gives you elementary kids. You divide it by 6, it gives you middle school kids, and you divide it by 9, and it gives you high school kids. But that's a very, very rough estimator.
Yeah.
You can actually take the 2020 census data and you can extrapolate per grade level what each house produces as a child or at a grade level. But that's going to be a calculation that has to be done with the 2020 census.
And I guess my point is that somebody's got to extrapolate and bring to this council how many kids you're looking at per lot, or what point, if it's 0.2, you're looking at, a range per child. And if it's only 0.2 per lot, then we've got to do the math to figure out what that number is. But, right now we're talking, we've got to have some idea how many children per lot we're talking about, whether it be a whole child or half a child or quarter of a child, so we can calculate what those costs are, so we can figure out what the impact fee, relatively needs to be, that can be justified. Am I off base, Mr. Moody?
No, I'm gonna, this is a public hearing, but just to kind of interject, I've had some discussions with some of the people in Ascension Parish who've been down this road ahead of us. And there's a lawyer that serves on that council that made some recommendations to us, and I think we ought to do that. There's experts that we should hire that'll walk us through and help us make these calculations. for each area, the flooding, the police protection, traffic, schools, et cetera. Will that expert use these kind of studies? Maybe, but those experts they've tried and true, they know it would work and it can be hold up to any kind of challenge you'll have. So my concern is that we want to make sure we do it right. There's also some urgency, because the sooner you get this impact fee adopted, the more lots it will attach to, because it's a one-time thing. You don't get it every time the lot is sold. You get it when a building is, I think this is on the building permit. Is that how you're trying to make this one, or?
We hadn't decided.
Yeah, so
okay.
we were thinking it relatively easy way to do it was at the signing of any final plat, then whatever deals were collected. That was one concept that would create, that was easier because every time a final plat was generated, before it was signed by planning, they'd have to make sure that those fees were paid for each lot on that deal, which was an easy way to collect it and it did a couple things. It gave the school board money up front to start construction before houses were actually, people were actually in there. So they got a jump on utilizing the impact fee to offset the impact that might come to every school. But ultimately, until we get some, we've got to have a cost per lot. We can't assess it at a cost per child. We're gonna need a cost per lot, and
That's what they asked.
I got something to say.
Right.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Guys, I mean, it's a public hearing on this ordinance that's incomplete, and obviously there's a ton of work that needs to be done, and a lot's undecided. So, I mean, I appreciate the resolution, and I think it's well worded, and I definitely think the impact needs to be mitigated and that type of stuff, but so much work needs to be done. What we need to do probably, I know we ain't supposed to vote right now, but is go ahead and table this and put a group together, maybe follow Mr. Moody's recommendations and get this right, put it in the right format, and then we see what we're voting on. We can kind of agree or not agree and that type of stuff.
Let's talk about that when we come back to it. Let's go ahead and finish the public comments.
Right. Mr. Mack, to address it, and for the attorney as well, at that same meeting, the school board approved to have our own expert hired to actually do the calculations and make sure that what we're giving y'all is defensible materials and information. So we are hiring an expert at the school board to do just that.
And to, Mr. Chairman, just a second, and just to clarify what Devin said and everybody else is saying, this is, and Shane just alluded to it, this is a public hearing, so all we're doing is acquiring information right now. Now, when we get through acquiring this information, then we'll make a decision, a table vote, or whatever we got to do. We're just acquiring information from the public right now. That's all we're doing. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Devin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Devin.
This is where I'm supposed to be asking this, but
Melissa
Jones, Walker, Louisiana, Mangum Chapel Road. In this impact fee or whatever, is this addressing our shortage of teachers, or does it address the health, safety, and welfare of readjusting our kids to another school? I mean, is that ever, I don't know if that fits anywhere in these criteria. And when do we start taking that into effect, even with firemen or whatever? I mean, like, I know the fee would cover some things, but I'm never really sure. We're trying to help y'all turn some stuff down or decrease something so nobody gets sued. And I'm just gonna be honest about it, I mean, I'm all about promoting growth. This is not, especially just about me, but I don't see anywhere where we ever really get a assessment of the whole health, safety, and welfare and peace. This, part of the whole deal too. I don't ever see where that gets factored in. And maybe that's not just for a developer, maybe, I don't know. But,
I mean, I think that's gonna have to be the school board's decision on all that. I mean, all we can do is make sure they get some money off these developments, and then they have to determine what they're gonna do with it.
Jeff.
but we have a right too to say something. I mean, we.
Okay, so I went to the meeting with some school board members and some administrative folks. Devin can answer this question specifically. The impact fee, the collection, the funding would be for a specific purpose. It's basically, don't let me misspeak here, Devin, but I mean, it's for the construction, it's for equipment and things of that nature. It can't be used as salary for teachers and things like that, but But my thought, just as a councilman and trying to put my thoughts together about this, it's going to improve the overall school system, and the money that's currently being used for the minimal salary that's being paid now may be able to be increased, because now that funding that's being used to build schools and all that kind of stuff won't be for that. You'll have the impact fee that'll be for building schools, and then you can adjust salaries and things like that. So the whole school system, everybody's going to benefit, in my opinion.
And
We
I
just need to
agree
work
that
together
they
to get it
yeah,
right.
That as well, the building, I don't think not help the schools. I'm just saying, do we ever factor in a body? I'm in healthcare, we have shortages all the time. The jail's paying more right now for nurses. So, when do we ever factor in that it's gonna lower our standards or quality of education by overloading these teachers, and we don't have anybody signing up to come back up here? This is our parish, we have a right to.
That's what we're trying to do here, in my
about this,
opinion, is
I'm not-
mitigate that and
I
fix
don't see it
that.
in, I don't know if it's just particularly on this ordinance, I'm just saying, in general, I don't see where that ever gets assessed. We just say we don't have the money for regional studies or whatever, but if we need to do community boards in each district, teachers, whatever, to get a more realistic idea, but at some point, we need to know what we need to give y'all to be able to turn some of this stuff down or decrease it.
I think that's the whole purpose of us coming to the table with the school board, to try to figure all this out. That was why this all got started, on impact fees. Like, we need them to come to the table with us and tell us how we can help them. They over the schools, not us. All we can do is, hey, what can we do to help you?
What is a significant impact? Has anybody ever
Well, he would have to tell us what the significant impact is on his schools. They over the schools, not us.
and just in general, each entity?
Yeah, the fire department has to tell us what their impact is. The sheriff has to tell us what his impact is. We're not over any of that stuff. So if they have an issue, they gotta do just like school board and the fire department's doing. They need to come here and tell us they have an issue. We need y'all to help us fix it.
Yeah.
Because we don't see the data. We don't work with this every day. We don't know. We have no idea what it is. So, that's why we opened this communication right here with them, to try to get this
I'm
all
just saying
figured
in
out.
general.
Yeah.
I'm just asking in
Yeah,
general.
yeah. So, it's each department, they need to come here and talk to us. And if we can help, we're gonna do an impact fee. We're gonna do whatever we can do to help them. We're gonna fix it. But we can't just say, hey, fire department gets 2,000 and sheriff gets 1,000. And we got to have the data from them telling us.
What do you need from our districts as a community to be able to give to y'all that we're saying enough's enough? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm asking the wrong way. If it's a significant change, and I know y'all can't do a regional or whatever statistics y'all need, we can't afford it, we can't do it to get an accurate, we're not really accurately assessing what the problems are here.
I think y'all doing what you're supposed to do as a community. You're showing up to the meetings.
Yeah, but
You're
y'all don't have
letting
y'all
us-
don't have the autonomy to be able to vote and turn something down if, for unique situations.
That's why we're changing these rules tonight,
So
try
this
to
is
make it
gonna
harder.
protect- This will make y'all be able to vote without being sued?
But that it won't, but it'll make it to where the things that's been a problem in the past will be addressed.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
one of the things we make it do, and we're trying to do, is to make it tougher. The rules, when you make them tougher, the developer has to do a better development. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to minimize the impact the developer is doing. We know he's making impacts out there, and we just trying to minimize that impact. And a way of doing it is to charge fees so we can use that to offset some of the impact he's doing. But there's many, many more things we're trying besides fees. We've already did densities. We're improving streets, fire protection, a lot of things we're doing besides improving fees. We're getting information up front that we used to not have information, and so we're voting to accept or deny based on the information we're getting, and now we have more information and more detailed information, I guess. Those are some of the things we're trying to do. And look, we just started in this thing, and I think we did a lot of progress, y'all.
Oh, no,
Everybody.
I congratulate you on that. But again, everything is behind, but the problem is now for us. That's critical.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think we've shoved these parish-wide statistics or whatever around long enough. I mean, we don't have teachers signing up. I don't know what else we need to say.
We're just as frustrated as the people in the audience, and we're just gonna try to do the best we can with y'all's help. You have to be here to tell us, what's going on, just like the school board had to be, just like the fire.
Pardon me, Mr. Ray, I feel like this is a bunch of legal stuff. I'm in healthcare. I understand it. We got loopholes for everything. Try to come sue some of us. I know it's difficult too, but I'm just gonna say, I don't feel like we are heard. You hear us, but, I know that you're putting in tougher ordinances and whatever, but if you can't find a body, Mr. Cecil Harris comes, who else to listen to? The public schools have done said we can't turn them down, so when we lower our standards and our education level for our kids drop, who's taking up for us? We live here.
Yes, ma'am.
I hear everything for a developer and why we can't do, but I'm saying we're not totally getting a big picture of the health, safety, impact of the whole picture. It's not a body.
And I agree with you, and I use those terms myself. And a lot of things make up the health, welfare, and safety of our community. Not just schools, not just fire department, not just drainage. It's many things that make those up. And we have a slippery slope to try. I know I'm one of those guys that's not on the right side. So we had that slippery slope to make all this work together. And I'll be honest with you, to renew bipartisanship that I see on this council in the last couple of days, I think the people are going to benefit from it. I really do. We're not going to be able to solve.
We're not seeing that, so we don't really trust this right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're going.
Well, I think you're going to see it after
only thing I know to do
tonight.
is we don't understand, and we can't. We're not getting what we need to get back from them.
And believe me, I understand. I really do. And we're trying to get there, is all I can say. We're trying to get there.
I thank y'all. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. But
Ma'am, and just so you know, we're on school impact fees. We did. That's why I'm trying to rein it back in on school impact fees.
I just wanted to kind of follow up on what she was talking about. And, I do have that impact fee somewhere in my notes. But if you would allow me for a minute, I appreciate it. And I do
State your name,
appreciate
please.
everything y'all are doing, and I do think all of these ordinances you're working on are great help. I'm not sure if they'll be enough, but I think the concern, and maybe that's what she was talking, that these ordinances being brought up are not going to protect us from some of the things that have already set before you that will not have to and I'd like to say this because I think it might be a concern. There's been a lot of talk about lawsuits based on how you vote, and I would not want to see any of you have to face a lawsuit. I know that people have said we have to vote according to our ordinances, according to our laws, and I understand that. I know that other people have voted against the laws. But what I would like to say is I've read the Attorney General's letter. It says that the council has the right to deny subdivision plats. It says that you have that right even if they do meet all of the ordinances. And the basis for that denial would be health, safety, and welfare of the public. And the courts would give this a strict scrutiny review, but the outlet for not being held legally, in a lawsuit, for losing a lawsuit on that would be that you didn't do it for the reason of health, safety, and welfare of the people. So I think some of these votes against these subdivisions, when people are saying, but they met all the ordinances, these votes are because they're concerned about the health, safety, and welfare of the people. And a lot of this stuff has been discussed. We talk about drainage, and I'm not an expert on that. I've heard experts talk about it. And we talk about the 20% reduction in the runoff, which is great. That's wonderful. That's good. But when you build a 100-acre island in the middle of a floodplain, the next time it floods, the houses around that island are going to flood deeper, and the flood's going to be more widespread. And that affects public safety, health, and welfare. We've talked about the schools, and the impact fees are great, and it can help build buildings, but we've repeatedly heard that there are no teachers. So what good is a building and a bus going to do if you don't have a teacher that can teach that child and give them the right kind of education when they get to that school? That is health, safety, and welfare for people that's effective. In our particular area, we have a volunteer fire department. And I cannot imagine what would happen when a fire breaks out where there are hundreds of homes a few feet apart, and it's left to that volunteer fire department to try to put out those fires and save lives. All three of those affect the health, safety, and welfare of the people, and they are legitimate reasons to deny a subdivision. And I think that's some of what she was referring to. When is that going to be taken into consideration? So the new ordinances are great. I'm so proud of y'all for working on all of that, and it's going to help in the future. I don't know how it's going to help a teacher shortage ever, but there's a lot going on right now that those new ordinances are not going to affect. That I hate to think that you're having to sit here and make a decision about how you're going to vote within the back of your mind. You're thinking somebody's going to sue me. That's a really sad thing to be happening. I just, I know it's a little off agenda, but I think you have grounds to vote for something or deny it based on the health, safety, and welfare of the people, and that you would not lose a lawsuit if you vote based on that.
All right. Please tell me you stay on topic. We got to get back on topic because we're in a public hearing, and I don't want to cut people off. I'm trying to give y'all your time.
So the school board guy had mentioned, you take the lots and you divide them by 3 for elementary kids, I think 6 for middle school kids, and 9 for high schoolers. So if you take a subdivision of 700, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding this properly, 700 divided by 3 is going to give you about 233 elementary kids. 700 divided by 6 is 117. 700 divided by 9 is 78. If you add all of those up, that's 428 kids. I'm assuming it's a cumulative deal. So that comes up to like 0.6111 per lot. And I thought in one of the other meetings that maybe it was you speaking, I'm not sure, Mr. Harris, who had mentioned something that the multiplier factor was around 1.2 to 1.7, or I don't know. And I really don't know what's right, but 0.611 feels light, because I feel like, and maybe the census data information would show some of this stuff, like how many children a family has, and it feels like it's 2 to 3 kids per family, and then you have some outlier families that may have 4, 5, 6 children, and you do have some families that have an only child. And then whenever you're looking at it and seeing how it correlates to a subdivision, you're going to have people who move in there that are retired, their kids are grown and gone. So I feel like the number is somewhere in between 0.6 to 1.5. I don't know, and I think that maybe exploring the census data could get something more definitive. I'd be curious to know, like Ms. Amoutier mentioned, Ascension Parish has hired some experts and with some studies and stuff like that. And do we know what their multiplier factor is and where it's at? Or is that something that is
It's
fluid and
available.
changes?
I haven't seen it, but it's a good question. We can get that.
I think yours is 1.08 right now, if I ain't mistaken.
Ours is
No.
1.08? Okay. All right, and that's just my thoughts on that, where that was at. I mean, to get to a realistic number, hopefully that's helpful.
Any more comments on school impact fees? 22-17.
This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by amending Section 125-22, provisions for subdivision street entrances as follows.
Discussion on street entrances. All right, 22-18.
This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by creating Section 125-34, Wetland Regulations, prohibited and permitted uses as follows.
Comments on wetlands. All right, 2-19.
This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by amending Section 125-22, provisions for subdivision street entrances as follows.
Comments? All right. 2-20.
This is an ordinance to amend Part 3, Land Development Code, Appendix B, fees, as more fully set forth herein.
Comments? All right. 22-22.
This is a big, long paragraph. Proposed ordinance 22-22, and I wanted to state there was a little typo. It said May the 26th was the introduction date, and it's actually May the 12th. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by amending Section 125-1, definitions, Section 125-2, authority, purpose, Section 125-9, submittals, Section 125-11, requirements for subdivisions without improvements, Section 125-12, requirements for minor subdivisions, Section 125-13, procedures for subdivisions with improvements, Section 125-14, construction procedure, Section 125-15, final plats, Section 125-23, building lines, Section 125-25, drainage impact study / drainage design requirements, Section 125-52, mobile home park submittals, Section 125-78, generally, Section 125-81, commercial development submittals, Section 125-106, generally, Section 125-109, multifamily development submittals as follows.
All right, next one, Ms. Sandy.
This is proposed ordinance 22-23. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general, by amending Section 125-25, Part I, Part 3, or Paragraph 3, drainage impact study / drainage design requirements by adding additional detention pond requirements of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Brian Bickford from Garden Meadows Road, Albany, Louisiana. And I was coming here, I have to sneak in when there's drainage on here.
No.
I came in.
No,
No, sir.
You've done that 3 times.
Yes, but I've also got
We're in a
text
public
mess-
hearing on an ordinance.
On
Just because
drainage.
it's drainage, you can't jump in here like that.
Well, but sir, let
No.
me ask you, I'm
Do
up
you
here
have
now
a comment on this right here, which
Yes,
is the
sir. I
introduction
think-
of this ordinance?
Because I've got several text messages here. I continually ask Mr. Shane Mack to be put on this agenda. I wait after to be put on this agenda. Attorney, can I be put on this agenda? How do I get in front of this councilman whenever the councilman that represents me refuses to? the text message, hello, I'm checking in. This is after the last meeting I was in here. I'm checking in on my request to discuss drainage at the next parish council meeting as I requested during and after the last council meeting. Please let me know your decision. Thank you, Brian Bickford. Been a busy day. I'll try to call you tomorrow. Never got a call from you today. Will I be on the next agenda? Sorry, another long, busy day. I'll try and call you this weekend. I'm out of town, not on this Tuesday.
Hey, that's it.
I'll be at the meeting Tuesday. Why will you not put me on the council agenda to discuss drainage issues?
Leave the chambers, please.
I'll try and call you this weekend. Have a good night. And then he called me and told me that I
Leave
can't.
the chambers,
Can we
please.
have a slight agenda?
When can I be put on this agenda for drainage?
Recess.
We're going to recess for 3 minutes.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Safe, we good? All right. So, Miss Sandy, which one was we on? We was on drainage. I think I remember
I think we
that.
were on drainage, yeah, that's right. What number was that?
This is going to be 22-24.
28, item 28. So that was the detention ponds. So is there anybody that actually has comment on detention ponds? All right, let's move on. And just so everybody knows, we are still in a public hearing.
Something on that? Yep. Did you want to address that on the detention pond? Yes, please. I'm sorry. Sorry, Jeff.
Okay.
So there is an ordinance, actually, that Ms. Dee Dee and them work on for the ponds. If you go and do an individual pond, like a person on their property, it's required to be 30 foot from the property line. We found this out a few months ago because we didn't realize that that was a separate ordinance in their section. So we've been trying to enforce that. We ran into a development that had an issue. The people got very upset that they only had 15 foot because that's what we were requiring when there was that ordinance in place. So I know this one says 20. If y'all want it to match, theirs says 30 foot from a property line. Now, while that would still be 20 foot of like a flat, like service, you'd still actually still having it 30 from a property line. So I just wanted to.
Didn't we waive one the other day on the distance between the property line and the edge of the pond? I think we did.
But I think what Ms. Morgan is saying is that we ought to
It's
keep
two
them.
different standards.
Yeah, we just changed ours to say
Yeah.
30, so it'd be the same as the one
And
they're
then if they
using.
need a waiver for whatever
Yeah,
reason,
I
the
would
neighbor's
be good
okay,
with
they
that.
can come to
Yeah.
us.
All right, so
Yeah.
just somebody remember when we get back to that to amend that. All right.
Hey, that is, 28.
22-23.
Yeah,
I mean,
20.
All right, so item 29 now, 22-24.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, this is an ordinance to amend Chapter 125 Subdivision Regulations, Article 1 in general by amending Section 125-25 Drainage Impact Study / Drainage Design Requirements by amending, I read the same thing, is that it? By amending detention basin requirements of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston? Is that the
That's the one
same?
that defines, that's the one that defines detention
Yeah, that
retention.
defines it. All right, any comments on that? All right, 30, 22-25.
This is an ordinance to acquire movable property for the Parish of Livingston pursuant to the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, project number FMA PJ 06LA 2019032, Livingston Parish.
Comments on that? Okay, we are now closing the public hearing.
I want to make a clarification. The public hearing is closed. Now, if anybody was to recommend or amendment, we're still going to have discussion on that amendment.
If we make a recommendation, to change it in some way, then if y'all have something to say, I'll give you time to say it. Just try to keep it brief. Allow somebody to take up a lot of our time tonight.
So if there's no amendment, then they don't get to?
Yeah, if there's no amendment, I mean, unless you just really have something you need to say, but.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what would happen is that we may discuss something and it may bring up.
We have a discussion that they need to ask
I just want to be
clarification
clear.
on.
All right.
All right?
Now we're going
So,
off.
we took care of 16 already, right?
We got 15.
I mean, we took care of 15.
16 was tabled, we got to go back to
Okay.
15.
But I thought we did 15 and then we decided to do them all.
Oh,
We did 15.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right. I
We did 15.
apologize. I apologize.
We tabled 16, so
Yeah,
we're
I-
actually on agenda item 17.
17.
So this is the 125-13, procedures for subdivisions with improvements. So we got any comments from the council on this? 17.
This this is the one that we're gonna amend, am I not correct? Is this the one
Yeah,
we're
got
gonna,
some-
is this the one we're gonna say A has to have a working telephone number? Or are we gonna put that somewhere else in 125? How did we determine we were gonna do that?
I think Miss Lauren White, is she around? She was
We'll get something to eat.
Add it
No,
somewhere.
she's gone to Subway, so she's not here. Okay, I think we're gonna, but we do need to add E and say email address.
Yes, E, we're gonna add E for an email address.
Is the blue part of the original?
No.
No,
No,
blue's
blue's what we
amended.
gotta-
Blue's what we gotta
Blue's
amend.
amended.
Okay, so we're gonna, okay, I wanna make a motion to adopt.
Gotta have a second before you can amend it. I'll second it.
Got a second, Randy, now we need a, okay. I'll second G-Boy's motion to amend.
Amended as written,
As written, except we gotta add E to say email address.
add E as email address.
Okay, so
Working number.
Well, I think, okay,
I think she was gonna address
she was
that
gonna address
somewhere else.
working in
Well,
125.
we can go ahead and put it
But
right
if you wanna
here.
put working in front of
Yeah.
telephone number, I'm fine with that.
On 2A, where it says name, address, and telephone number, it should say, and working telephone number.
I agree, that's what, yeah.
Everybody's good with that?
okay, but someone read that out in clarification before we vote on this.
All right,
okay?
so what's in blue, it says the following signage is what's in blue, will be required for subdivisions with improvements. The ODS, and then this part I'm fixing to read's in blue, shall erect 2 signs that will be placed corner to corner in a V-shaped formation that shall be measured. That's what was changed, that
So-
part. So that's what we're amending.
So does anybody from the ordinance have a problem with the amendment?
And the other part of the amendment will be A says name, address, and working telephone number of the ODS, and then E will say email address.
Everybody's good with that? All right, so I need a motion.
You got a motion to amend,
G-Boy made the motion to amend,
and I seconded it.
and Terry Talbot second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? First one out of the way.
I'm making a motion to adopt as amended.
To adopt by Gary Talbot,
Second.
second by Mr. Girlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. 18. This is section 130-1, regulations of telecommunication towers.
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, hold up.
Now we need a,
This is-
oh, Sandy got, wait, we've already read it by title, don't we?
They've been read by title. Yeah, there's nothing changes on this one.
Oh, no, this one's being amended too.
Someone's got to make a motion to amend.
Somebody need to make a
Got a
motion.
motion from
Make a
Mr.
motion
Talbot,
to amend.
second by Mr. King.
Oh, that was on.
Oh, I made the motion to accept,
Seconded.
and he
Yeah.
seconded it. Now, he's making a motion to amend.
All right, Scooter's motioning to amend. Who's seconding that?
I can.
All right, Mr. Delat seconding it.
Okay, now we need to read the amendment.
The blue verbiage, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead, because I think I lost.
All right, so section 130-1, regulation of telecommunication towers. The following signage shall be required. This is in blue. There shall be 2 signs posted that will be placed corner to corner in a V-shaped formation that shall each be measured. And it's basically 4 foot by 8 foot. Such signage shall be posted in black and white with no obstructions. And there's some little ones down here. It says the bottom of the sign. We correct that to say signage because we have more than one sign now. And same thing further down, the heading of the sign, we put to signage, and then a little further down, the remainder of the sign, signage. Basically pluralizing those. And that's it.
So if you paraphrasing, what are you saying we changing for the amendment? Just the signage?
V-shaped sign, it's the same
Just
thing, it's a
same
V-shaped sign.
Same thing as the one
Okay.
before it. We're just putting
Okay.
that V-shaped sign
What
so
about
they
the
can see it.
within 5 feet? That's amended too, right? That's in red?
Yeah, that was in the original.
That's in the original.
When we did it, went back?
No.
Yeah. That's
Well, yeah,
how we
when it was
introduced it
introduced.
at the last meeting.
Okay, so that'll be just in there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Good.
Has anybody?
Everybody's, any comments on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'll make a motion to adopt as amended.
Motion to adopt as amended, second by Talbot, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. 19. 19 is 125-3.3, required studies and statistical data for development.
Randy, you want to talk about this, or?
Yes, I will. I don't know why mine's not on that. Okay, number 20, right?
Yeah, this is actually 19 here.
Oh, it's 19?
Yes.
No, I don't. Okay, basically what we said on this one, it was no amendments, there was no public discussion on it. And to recap, it says required studies and statistical data for development. The following information shall be presented with all preliminary plats and reviewed with all comments addressed by our parish review engineer before the 18th day of the month prior to the planning commission meeting. Fire protection review, school impact studies, traffic impact studies, and drainage impact studies. What this does is gives us the information before we take a vote. Was it the second stage or the third stage? I think
This
it
is
was
stage 3.
Stage 3. So before they vote on the preliminary, they will have their information, and that's what's the difference in this ordinance. Okay, I'll make that motion that we accept this ordinance.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Talbot. Is there any comments on this?
Just a quick question. Do we have a definition for the requirements of the school impact study?
That's going to be in another ordinance. The definition. That's not,
gonna-
this is just saying the submittals have to be done for the preliminary. And
But here's the deal. We're going to create another ordinance that creates a section for the school impact studies. We still need some guidance from y'all about what y'all want to say in the study. How do y'all want to say what the impact is? We don't know what the impact of schools is. We have asked for guidance on what type of impact. How do y'all evaluate the impact? Typically, I think when y'all have a subdivision, y'all pretty much know what the impact is. Y'all do some work in-house, and y'all pretty much know what that is. You really just need to tell us what y'all do in-house for every subdivision that's coming along, so y'all know what's coming, and we can put it in ordinance, and y'all can just give it to us as each subdivision comes along.
Okay, historically, it's been done by that 369 number, which is going to have to be revamped, because that's something that we're going to have to do. That's what I need to know, that we're
Yeah,
going to
so we're going to create by section. We're going to create by ordinance the section, but that section has no definition in it, and we're waiting on feedback from y'all to put in that definition. So if y'all going to revamp the 369, y'all need to figure out what you want to do, and then give us that, and then we'll put that in the ordinance, and then basically you give us those calculations on every.
y'all the parameters for
The parameters,
impact study
and we'll
that
put it in
we're
an ordinance,
looking-
and then y'all give us what the results of those parameters every time a subdivision comes about. Am I correct, Randy? Is that what we're talking about?
you're correct.
All right.
All right, so we all good on this? Had a motion and a
That was
second.
20? Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
19.
That was 19. So we're on 20. 20 is the fire protection review, section 125-20.
Okay, the fire protection review is going to be amended, guys, and I'm going to read out the amendments. I'm going to read first the ordinance, and then the amendments will follow. It says, fire protection review. The owner of any development shall provide a letter of adequate flow, capacity, and pressure for fire protection from the applicable fire district. If adequate flow, capacity, and pressure cannot be determined, A letter shall be submitted stating there's a failing level of service and shall be accompanied by a plan for fire protection signed by the applicable fire district. Amendment number 1 under A is going to be adequate flow and pressure shall be defined as 750 gallons per minute at 20 pounds per square inch PSI. Amendment B is going to be a fire hydrant shall be deemed out of service if it produces less than 500 gallons per minute at 20 pounds per square inch PSI. So I'm going to make a motion first to accept it without the amendments, get a second, then we do like we did. I'll make a motion, we accept the Livingston Parish Ordinance 22-14.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Talbot.
Somebody needs to amend.
I'll make a motion to accept as amended.
Motion to accept as amended by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. Harris.
Wait, we got Tracy, your motion should be to amend.
Amend.
Oh, motion, okay, I'll make a motion to amend.
Yeah.
Just
Motion to amend as written.
as written, yeah.
It's written in blue.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
And I forgot to ask for if anybody had any discussion on that one.
Yeah, I think they're good with that one. That's
Okay.
pretty good right there.
Okay, the next, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Motion to adopt.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
Adopt
to
as amended, and I
adopt
second it.
by Mr. Latt, second by Mr. Talbot. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Next one's 21, right?
21.
Okay, 21, guys, is something like 40, or maybe even more than that, changes when it comes to ownership. This is the one about ownership, okay? I'm gonna make a motion that we table this one because we don't have all the writing needed for ownership. And I think in talking to Ms. White, we can make a section where we don't have to amend it 60 times in a book form and just make a list section. So we don't have that in written form now, so I have to make a motion that we table ownership until the 23rd, which will be our next meeting, and we have it in proper written form, and then we can adopt it.
Wait,
You want to just defer it?
wait, Randy, is this the one, is this the one that we, to the 23rd, or is this the one we table indefinitely and fix in the other 125? I don't remember. It says on here table indefinitely. Is that the one we want to table indefinitely and fix in 125?
125, yes, but I thought we were gonna fix that on the 23rd.
We're gonna enter, okay, yeah.
Okay, I understand, we're gonna, listen, I didn't explain it correctly. Let me back up. Gary's correct. We're gonna do away with this one. I'm gonna table it indefinitely because we're gonna write a whole new ordinance, and I didn't explain that correctly.
Correct.
Thank you,
That's a
Gary.
motion to table,
Yes.
second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Is there any comments on tabling this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. 22, creating section 125-20.2, school impact study.
Randy, that's the one that we do to the 23rd.
This is the one, yeah.
This also has to be tabled because we don't have the fees exactly right, and we don't have the last definition. I think we're waiting from Devin and them to tell us exactly what we want to do there. But I like to table this to the 23rd, next meeting.
Second.
All right. Got that? Motion made by Mr. Latt, second by Mr. Girlinghouse to table it to the 23rd. Any comment from the audience? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, what's the next one, y'all?
3, provision of subdivision street entrances.
I think this is the one with the lots on this Parish
200.
Road. We're gonna
This is the
table
two-
this.
Yes.
I think.
Is this the one with the lots on the Parish Road, right?
Right,
yes.
Yeah, okay. This one's gonna also be tabled indefinitely. We got another one coming up written. So that one's gonna be tabled too.
Motion by Mr. Delat to table.
Second.
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, 24. This is the Wetlands Regulations.
Yes.
And assuming you're gonna handle this one too?
Bring this in. Not yet. Let's see how long it takes.
Okay, this ordinance is Wetlands Regulations, and what the intent of this ordinance was not to count wetlands acreage so that you can increase more houses on your development. And the sticking point to this regulation, this ordinance, proposed ordinance, was what definition wetlands was. So there's been a compromise from Army Corps of Engineers definition to the EPA's definition, and that seems to work better for our situation here. So the amended part of this, the proposed amendment said Army Corps of Engineers definition. This proposed amendment that's going to be presented is going to say EPA's definition. The total acreage of proposed development shall not include wetlands classified as marsh, swamp, or fens according to the EPA's definition of wetlands. There's a lot of things. You want to make the ordinance as tough as you can to protect the people, but at the same time, you don't want to penalize them. And some of the things I think was Mr. Mack brought up about houses on the rivers and stuff, and that's why we had to change the definition, because we wasn't trying to knock anybody out on the river. And I'm like to make a motion that we accept the wetlands definition determination, Livingston Parish Ordinance 2218.
So you second it?
Second by Mr. Wassman.
Okay, I'd like to make the amendment to accept it as amended.
Second.
You got
I'd
that?
like to make the motion to amend it.
Motion to amend it as written.
Second.
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'd like to make the motion we accept it as amended.
Adopted as amended.
Adopted as amended.
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. 25, provisions for subdivision street entrances requirements.
That's someone else. Gary gonna take that one?
Me?
This might be you, Tracy.
With 21's so long, you gotta dig in there to get to 25.
Yeah, so 22.
Oh, that's 25, ain't it?
Yeah, 25.
There. All right, so, yeah, I think this one's mine.
Yeah, this one's used right
All
here.
right. Sorry. Again, this is just some tighter restrictions that we put in place from an ordinance that we did probably 2 or 3 years ago. Essentially adjusting, tightening up the number of houses per entrance ordinance. They were saying that the developments with 99 or less lots shall be developed or roads 18 foot, or this is actually you, isn't it?
Yep. this
Yes,
is me.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Go
All
ahead.
right, so this is with requirements, so developments with 99 or less lots shall be developed on roads 18 foot in width or greater. Developments with 100 and over lots shall be developed on roads with a width of 20 foot or greater. Developments that do not meet the required road width shall make improvements from the entrance, exit of the development to the nearest state or parish road that meets the 18 or 20 foot width requirement. That'll be what's amended.
Well, yeah, but that was introduced as amended, so I would just.
So we already just been adopted as amended.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt.
As amended.
A motion to adopt as amended by Mr. Talbert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Is there any comments on this one? Come on.
Oh. He might be asking the same thing.
A quick question. Would the traffic impact study still have I guess, governance over this to where if a turn lane or something was needed to get off of? Okay.
Absolutely.
This is only road width, so if they say that it needs something else, then that'll be added.
This is yes, Scott, this is a minimum. This is a minimum set forth that, you know, depending on what the traffic is, you've got to do this, even if there's no additional impact.
Okay, that's perfect. This is great for safety, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
still have the
for sure.
capacity with the drainage, with the traffic impact study. Thanks.
I got one question.
Go ahead,
I got
Mr.
one
King.
question. So who's going to determine the width? Are we going to send out?
It's administrative.
I mean,
We have that already. They can tell us the width of the roads now.
Well, the engineer would do that.
I think
just wanted to make
DPW
sure.
has a list of it, yeah. I think they
Okay.
have a list of
All right.
that, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Rolls getting full over here. All right. Subdivision ended meeting section. Let's see. 6 is amend Part 3, Land Development Code.
Yeah, if this was something that came out of, this is something that came out of the, planning commission, that we're way behind on our fees that hadn't been adjusted, so this is just a fee adjustment that we had discussed in the ordinance and it introduced. So I'd like to make a motion to, approve 26.
Got a motion by Mr. Talbot to approve ordinance 26, second by Mr. King.
Yeah, I second.
All right. Is there any comments?
$50.
That was the, remember the culvert?
Yeah.
We talked about the culvert price and,
So- Is that the only thing that went up?
No, everything's in red.
Oh, it's a lot.
26, look at those three
yeah,
three
shed
pages.
permit went up, culvert permit, multifamily, permit fee for placing antennas on existing towers. It's a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with, a lot of it, like the fees for inspection with the camera and some of that stuff that we didn't have before. But look, I think the planning department did an evaluation of surrounding parishes, and we landed somewhere in the middle. We're not the cheapest, and we're not the most expensive.
What's in red?
That's the ones that are changed.
That's the changes.
So they're not all changed, just the ones in
Just
red?
ones in
Just
red.
ones in red.
Just the ones in red.
It's not that many, but they were important. Like when they send out the camera system, I mean, that's a big deal. So there needs to be a charge. for it.
Telecommunications was the main thing that changed.
Yeah. Got a motion.
Everybody's good? Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Make sure everybody's good. All good with it? Is there any comments from the public? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, 27. Ordinance to amend Chapter 125.
This is the ordinance that was approved once before with a typo, and the amendment to go from 2.0 to 2.5 lot density failed. It was vetoed by the administration and reintroduced at the planning committee, at the ordinance committee meeting with the corrected typo on the 20% and the lot and the density at 2.5 per acre. Look, I want to make a clarification. When I don't know if y'all remember, there was a meeting. Our secretary for the ordinance committee was still not working. She was still on her maternity leave at that point in time. And there was an amendment made in the committee. And I tried to take the ordinance, put the amendment in it, and try to pass it out, and then realized I had used the wrong ordinance. When we went back and corrected that, we corrected the wrong ordinance. That's where the 10% typo came in. Look, I initially grabbed the wrong ordinance trying to amend it that day from the deal, so I just wanted to explain how we ended up with the 10% typo. Is that I in an effort to try to fix, so we had a fully written ordinance to introduce that night, I grabbed the wrong ordinance.
4 months ago?
That's what happened. I mean, that's how long it's taken to get to this point, but that's how we got the typo. I just wanted, there was a lot of concern about how we ended up with 10% typo, and Look, I mean, when you read something
was
so
your
many,
fault.
it was my fault. And when you read something so many times, I'm gonna be honest with you, I never
just runs
I
together.
never realized what had happened, so.
We got
But
you.
anyway, this is the ordinance. We've all gone through it. The basic changes from the last one that we adopted was we corrected the 10% to 20%, and then we changed the density from 2 to 2.5. And I'd like to make it, I'd like to offer,
Motion to
motion to
accept.
accept.
All right. Second by Mr. Mack.
Oh, look at that.
Any comments on this?
Do you need call?
We've had a lot of comments
So
on that.
I'm going to ask you one question, and that's going to be, so we're going to clarify the 10% to the 20%, correct? 0.5, it's also got to be added into this, right?
It was introduced,
From
it was
2
introduced
to
as that. It was
2.5.
introduced at 2.5.
Just making sure I'm right, because I'm still not for the 2.5.
I understand. And do you want to call a roll on this, G-Boy? I mean, Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's call a roll.
Okay, that's fine.
Call roll on it. You want to go with? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Deborah Blunt, 19020 Blunt Farms Road, Livingston, Louisiana. I could not understand what Mr. Gerald was saying, but about the 2.5, it changed. It was originally 2 when y'all sent it to the parish president. I think that had been voted by the mass majority of you, 7, I think. And so are y'all, is this like a totally new thing again, where you can amend it and change it back to 2, or?
Let me comment on that.
Go ahead, Mr. Mack.
I'm going to try to answer your question. So we voted on 2, we passed it, it went to the administration, and they vetoed it. And there was, in my opinion, a compromise to go to 2.5 because we felt 2.5 was better than what we currently have. So that's why I'm going to support the 2.5. We actually voted to override the veto, and it failed for, majority of the vote, felt like that was the right direction. And so we're back on the 2.5. So it's basically 2.5 or what you have today, which is way more than that.
About 3.8 average.
So there's no way to go back to the 2 at this point?
It would be vetoed again. The parish president would veto it again, and then we would.
You can override a veto.
But listen,
Here's the
Try
thing,
that.
though. And I'm sorry, I just want to.
House?
When we zone this, you could be at 1.0. If everybody zones, and I'm going to zone my district this way, 2.5, 2.0, you can zone it at 1.0. And that's why I've always pushed for zoning, because 2.0, 2.5 would be a lot stricter than that. It'd be one house an acre. If you wanted to do it that way, you could.
And if it's agriculture, it'd be 3 acres plot.
Good point. This will be just for 6 months.
Yeah, this is.
So, I mean, zoning's going to be here before the end of the year, so.
Okay, yeah, and I've heard y'all talk about that.
I want to,
Do y'all think the parish president's going to approve that?
He will. And if he don't, we will override him on that.
We'll
Yes.
approve this.
Zoning.
Yes. Oh, he's going to approve zone. He's already said that he would.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Chairman, wait, before you leave, Deb, she asked a question no one answered. She wanted to know if there was a way to get it back to 2. And it is a way. It's called initiative. You can make an ordinance. The people sitting down can make an ordinance. You got to do it by petition. That's an initiative ordinance. That means the president cannot veto that type of ordinance. But it's got to be up to the president. It's a section I was trying to look in the book real quick. It's
Read about it.
you read about it, so you know the section. Okay.
Has to be with the whole parish has to sign that, Randy?
No, it's a percentage. I can't remember the percentage. but
Percentage
that-
of the whole parish.
probably 10.
A percentage of people, yes.
10%, something like that.
But listen, whatever happens, not that here the ordinance, it doesn't have to be that big of a percentage. But to go to vote on it, when she comes before us, and we chose not to do that, then she can take that same initiative ordinance and have the next nearest election, the people in the parish
people
can vote
vote
on
on
it.
it. Okay.
The people can vote on it.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Jones, Walker, Louisiana. I want to know, didn't the parish president, is he definitely going to go for zoning, or is he on board? Because we got different feedbacks from different people saying that he maybe was not a proponent for that as well. And then I thought with this Fonzie, maybe I missed something, that the third-party engineer, was that included in that as well?
The third-party engineer was amended the last time so that the review, the engineer doing the development could do the review, and the parish engineer would sign off on it.
I mean, isn't that part of all of this, though, or that just that part?
No, that part, the Fonzie's still in there. It just doesn't require a third-party engineer. We amended it. Okay, so initially, when the ordinance was written, we thought that the parish engineer strictly was review. However, the parish engineer came up and talked about the work that they do within verifying the information. So we felt like that we had a pretty strong review situation with respect to that. So all we're asking the Fonzie now is that the design engineer, after it was reviewed and approved by the parish engineer, basically issued a statement that if it was built as designed, that there would be no significant impact. And so therefore, if there is a significant impact, then we can go after, there is somebody that signed it on the line that said there isn't. It creates a situation that might make a civil situation easier for residents, because there would be an engineer with a document that said there would be no impact. And then if the impact
I guess what
is
I just wanted to clarify, I guess a clarification, because I heard Mr. Murphy or maybe some of you guys say sometimes they do like a regional or more, they look, further out for drainage or whatever. Is that would be the parish engineer? Would that be somebody else, or the developer? Who kind of prompts that? I mean, I didn't know how that worked. If we need to be paying attention, maybe.
Well, we've introduced the ordinance that creates a little bit further look on this particular deal. Did you get to define how far they look on this thing, no? The way it's structured right now?
Yeah, I mean, they have to.
So they got to prove, so they've got to go further out to prove. For example, if a ditch downstream isn't functioning properly, they've got to show where their development doesn't adversely affect what's going on now. And if there's some minor improvements that can be made, i.e. culverts and some other stuff, then they're going to be responsible for changing those out. So there's some drainage improvements. Not only is there a reduction in outflow, there's the ability to have the developer do some downstream improvements or upstream improvements in the way this ordinance is written. Am I correct, Morgan, the way we structured that?
Okay.
Comments? All right, Ms. Sandy, call for a roll on this.
Mr. Mack,
Yeah.
Mr. Delat,
No.
Mr. Talbert,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Wascom,
No.
Mr. McMorris, Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 6, so 2/3.
All right, so we're on 28 now. This is drainage impact study, drainage design requirements. You don't have nobody talking about drainage out there, huh?
It's you, Tracy.
Yeah, I know. Hang on, we're at here.
Hey, here it comes.
Sure you hadn't sneaked back in there.
All right. It's a little back story on this. There's lots of the reason for this is there's lots of retention ponds in the parish that were part of a development in the past where there's essentially no way to get to them to clean them. So we're just establishing some guidelines for that. And it says, this was it. Ponds shall have at least a 20-foot, and I think we're going to amend that to say 30.
Correct.
30-foot
No,
deep.
wait. That was just saying it had to be 30 foot from the
Yeah, that was
property line.
We're going to have to take that up. We're going to have to take that up. That doesn't really apply. This is a
Okay, so we'll just
20-foot
put this in
subdivision.
its place, okay. Ponds shall have at least a 20-foot deed to access around the perimeter of the pond in the entire basin. Ponds shall have a 20-foot gated deeded access to the detention basin for access for maintenance of a pond, and the 20-foot gated access shall be crushed concrete or gravel base. Essentially, they can do that, throw a couple inches of dirt on top of it so grass can grow. It just doesn't stand out like a
It'll
sore
hold
thumbs,
up
but
the
it's
truck.
good.
Yep.
Do this because in the past, they've used the inlet and the outlet as the access point, and we just don't have, you got to be able to get equipment in around the whole perimeter of these ponds to maintain them. So that's what we're trying to get implemented
We're gonna get it
so we
implemented.
can have access to these ponds to where we can clean them. That's it.
If need be.
That's a motion.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse, second by Mr. King. Is there any comments? Come on up, Mr. Lee.
How's that gonna affect the existing?
It
It
ain't.
won't affect us,
won't.
we can't go back to existing, so.
Okay, just check.
We were
I
looking
do
at
have one question just to clarify. I know in the ordinance committee, we spoke about, it was originally proposed at 20 foot around the perimeter, and there was a proposal based on feedback in previous ponds that you need a servitude over the entire thing, which is the slope in the bottom.
Well, it says that, doesn't it?
I just want to make sure that was included, because that was something that we talked about.
Pond shall be at least 20-foot deeded access around the perimeter of the pond and the entire basin.
Yeah, it just covers the whole
Because we've
basin.
had that the slopes, y'all have to have a servitude on the slopes and on the water surface to be properly maintained with equipment.
said the entire
Not just the perimeter.
Yeah, I think that covers it all, the entire basin. Yep, good, thanks, Lee.
Yep.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed?
Apparently, John.
Mr. Chairman, before we get to the next agenda item, it's a special favor I'm asking. Can I have the floor just for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
I'm directing this to the people out in the audience. I know some of y'all may go, 'cause it's been a lengthy agenda, but if y'all could stay around to councilman comments, I appreciate it, because I'm gonna need some feedback from y'all. Thank you.
All right. 29, this is amend 125-25, which defines detention and retention basins.
This ordinance was introduced to do a little housekeeping. Basically, what it says is wherever it said detention, it says detention/retention. And it also included, it basically struck a part of the ordinance that was going to be in conflict with Tracy's ordinance that was just introduced.
Yeah.
That a minimum 15-foot wide access along the entire perimeter for maintenance. So, that's basically the gist of what this ordinance is. And I would like to make a motion to, accept this ordinance as written.
Motion by Mr. Talbert. Second. Second by Mr. Mack. Any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the council? All opposed? All right. On here, item 30.
It's quick. It would last longer.
Acquisition of a movable property pursuant to the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program located at 398 Dick Hodges Road, Independence, Louisiana, being 2 acres.
It's your district.
Essentially, just,
Motion.
yeah.
I second it,
Okay.
and this is North Albany, this is Livingston Parish. This is a good thing, and I fully
Okay,
support
motion by
this.
Mr. McMorris, second by Mr. Mack. Any discussion from the audience? All, aye? Any opposed? All right, I'm 30.
30?
31.
31? Took care of 30?
Yep. All right. It's fast whenever I'm in here.
That's what I'm talking about.
Eat that sandwich.
31, adopt a resolution to set the speed limit to 15 miles per hour on Wagner Road from P Ridge to LA Highway 43. Mr. Mack?
Appreciate y'all. I'll try to make this as fast as possible. So, North Albany, there's a parish road called Wagner. It runs from Highway 43 to P Ridge. East, right there at 43, where it runs west, it's extremely curvy. Very, very curvy road. Very dangerous if you drive fast. The current speed limit for the whole entire road is 25 miles an hour, and people are going probably twice that. And it's been brought to my attention that something needs to be done about that. So I'd like to make a motion, my motion, and we can talk about it. My motion is to change the speed limit to 15 miles an hour from Highway 43 until the last curve on Wagner Road. If you look on your phone, map, whatever, majority, I guess a little bit more than half of Wagner Road is straight. And, but the other, I guess, portion, half of it, is extremely curvy. So for the curvy part, you know, from Highway 43 to the last curve, to me, needs to be 15. The remaining can be 25. So I'd like to make that motion that we do that.
Can we make the last part 35 so we make up the time? I'm just picking.
That's not a bad idea. You know, I never thought of that. You know, maybe we talk about that in the future. It's really, it's not a bad idea.
Motion by
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Wascom. Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed?
Mr. Mack again, we waiting on you to catch
32,
up.
adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver of section 125-12 to allow 9 lots on a servitude located on LA Highway 442. Mr. Mack.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys. This is a minor subdivision, okay? And it's basically 20-acre plot, and they're making 10 total lots, right? And they're gonna put a driveway, a nice road up to Parish standard. It's gonna be a private road down the center of this thing. They've got drainage servitudes on the east and west of this property. They're gonna put some swell ditches and do some little bit of retention and drain that to that state highway. They've got drainage servitudes, sewer servitudes, along the private road that's going to be 20 feet wide, and it's 2-acre lots. And I went up there, I rode up there, I looked at it. Nice, hard-working individual subdividing this property, and I'm in favor of this waiver. And you're going to maybe say, well, what do you mean you need a waiver? It's a servitude here, and you have 4 lots on a servitude. But they several months back, they took it to the planning commission and our planning department, not the planning commission, and basically what's best for this minor subdivision is to put this road down the center of this 20-acre plot, right? And they're going to have 5 lots on the left of this private road and 5 lots on the right of this private road. It is 2 separate property owners. One of them owns 10, the other one owns the other 10. But just this is what's best. We can grant waivers if we can justify it. This will make the drainage better. This will make a better development for all. And so I'm in favor of it.
Second that, Mr. Mack.
I appreciate that.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Delat. Mr. Gerlinghouse.
The driveway, it meets all standards to if it needs to become a road, not a Class D road, but a road in the.
That's right. They've agreed to make that a parish road and meet all parish standards. I've sent them a copy of the parish standards. In addition to that, they've also agreed to abide by all DOT requirements when it comes to the entrance onto the state highway. And this is straight off of a state highway, right there next to a church, and and then, on one side is a church, and on the other side, it's a wooded area, and it's going to be a really, really nice thing for all. You got any more questions, just keep asking. I can explain.
I guess at the end, on the parish road, doesn't it require like some type of turnaround? Like a J-turn?
Yes, sir. And their preliminary plat does have a nice parish standard T-turnaround at the end.
Okay, so as long as they're given the right width for the road, the servitude, and the turnaround, and they meet the standard for what would in the future could be a parish road.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so Shane, let me ask you a question.
Hey, buddy.
So we've got this one track here that shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parcels of almost 10 acres that are on 442. And this is A and B. This is parcel A and B with the road down the middle of the 2 of them to create the 5 lots on each side.
Okay,
Yes.
Ross, you want to come up and talk
Yeah,
about that?
I just wanna
what I
make
can
su-
tell you today is when this is all said and done, you're going to have 5 lots on the right, 5 lots on the left of this road, and the first 2 lots are going to be facing the state highway. So really, you're going to have 8 lots in the end on the Servitude.
Well, yeah, but they're
They're
different.
gonna do it to each one of
but
these
they're
all the way
different
down.
I understand what you're saying, but they're different parcels, but because they're using a common road, they need a waiver?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so we had a motion by Mr. Mack?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
we get a second by Mr. Delat? Is there any comments from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
33, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver of section 125-9 submittals for Michelle Gibbs to allow the subdivision of property in a named subdivision. Mr. Mack?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So this subdivision was designed years ago, and it's a nice subdivision, but there are mobile homes within this subdivision today, multiple mobile homes. They're nice, and she would like to put a mobile home in this subdivision also. And so we have ordinance out there, and I can't remember the exact verbiage, but basically says, you can't have a mobile home in a named subdivision. There's some other requirements and things of that nature, so that's why she's asking for the variance or waiver.
Second that, Mr. Mack.
I'd like to make the motion. Okay,
Motion by
appreciate
Mr.
you.
Mack, second by Mr. Delat. Is there any comments on this?
Yeah. So this is to allow the subdivision of property. So are we subdividing property, or are you just trying to add?
There's no subdivision of the property. If that's in there, that's incorrect. There's no subdivision of the
Says,
property.
what we on, item, what, 33, right? Adopt the resolution.
What she's doing is to allow the subdivision of property.
Named subdivision.
Yeah, that's incorrect. All she's asking for is a waiver to put trailers in the subdivision. It's not being subdivided.
I mean, then, I think you need to state it that way. I mean, for.
I agree. But I mean, the motion is to grant a waiver to put the trailer in the subdivision.
Named subdivision.
In the
In
name
the named
subdivision.
subdivision.
Okay,
That's
so
the motion.
Okay.
So you make a motion to allow that, to give the waiver to do that?
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Delat, you seconded. Is there any comments on this? All in favor? Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I noticed Mr. Mack had all his in a row like that. Can I get mine like that on the front end of it, and I can leave at 7 o'clock?
No, you can't. We're gonna spread you out on purpose.
Are you kidding me? You just asked these people to state a councilman comment.
But we would have left.
All right, item 34, adopt a resolution to assign signature authority to whomever is currently seated chairman for parish entities to apply for grants. So this was sent to Miss Sandy. She called me on this. This is for the sewer board. So this is a letter that they asked for my signature on, and I wanted y'all to all be aware of it before I gave the signature. And it basically says the purpose of this notarized letter is to designate Jamie Fontenot as the entity administrator for Livingston Parish Council. I, Jeff Ard, Council Chairman, hereby confirm that Jamie Fontenot is an authorized officer, agent, or representative of Livingston Parish Council. This letter will authorize Jamie Fontenot to have access to the System for Award Management, which is SAM. SAM is a computer system managed by the federal government, and it is only accessible by individuals who are either authorized to represent a particular entity or by individuals representing themselves. Accessing the or using SAM or information contained therein for any unauthorized or illegal purpose may have civil or criminal penalties and may negatively impact the status of the SAM registration maintained in this entity. I, the below signed, attest to the accuracy of all information contained in this letter. So Gary, Gary kind of worked with me a little bit on this, so if you want to add a little more to it.
So basically, the parish, there was one term that you had a name, that how you applied for grants, and they changed it to a saying. But basically, every entity of the parish that wants to apply for a grant uses the parish number. So what the resolution actually is going to give the parish council chair in the future, when there's a request by entity of the parish to apply for a grant, the ability to sign the letter without coming to the council. Because we just happened to work out on this deal that it was timely, but if the request would have come tomorrow, then we would have been 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on the date, before we could get back to the council.
Cause you to miss a deadline.
Right, so the resolution is an effort, he's telling you about this particular letter, but the resolution is to grant the council chair the ability to sign a letter to designate a representative of parish entities to get on the SAM and do the grant work that needs to be done.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah.
To where it had to be that quick? I mean, we've always authorized people to sign apply for grants, and as a council, we've always done that. I mean, are you saying to take that away and just give it to the chairman so it could expedite it? Is that the only reason you're looking to do this? I mean, is a grant? Grants usually take time and process. I mean, I'm okay with the chairman doing it, but why would you just want to not bring it to the council and let's all get behind it and
I would
support it?
absolutely bring it to y'all every time, even if it was by text. I would never sign without y'all knowing.
And then you get a whole council resolution. Yeah, we support that. I think
Look, that's
But I
fine.
mean,
It's
you
even
gotta
more
think
valid.
if a disaster happens.
Oh,
you
well,
know,
the
and-
emergency
and,
would
you know,
be
and
different.
You need to hurry up and sign something to get something.
I think what happened in this particular situation is they in applying for the grant, whatever, they didn't realize that they needed a designee, a letter from the council to designate Jamie to get in this system.
Right.
And that it was just a timely matter. And so that was the purpose of the resolution. Look, I got no dog in this hunt. I talked to.
Y'all vote how y'all want. I'm just letting y'all know that they need my signature on this, and I wanted y'all to be aware of it. I wanted everyone to be okay with me signing
Well, how about a
this.
motion to authorize you to sign that?
That's fine.
That's how y'all want to do it. I'm fine with that. Wait.
I
Miss
don't
Sandy,
have-
Hold up. Miss Sandy?
Y'all have done something like this a couple of times for Juban Crossing, because y'all are the board of supervisors, and Jim Ryan came to y'all with a resolution that allowed not to have to come every single time for a vote of the board of supervisors. So it's kind of similar to that, authorizing the chair to sign. on
Just
y'all.
make the motion, do it, and we'll vote however we need to vote.
Mr. Chairman, wait. I want to make a discussion on it. I'm not against the chairman having that authority, but I was just curious about, and you used a great example. I never thought about that, Juban Crossing. But are there any other places? I didn't know that we had to do that. I thought the parish president did that. I didn't, So there's, every time there's an entity, we say like a drainage district, a sewer district, they have to have okay. I'm not against the chairman doing that.
Typically, the grant department, we've got a grant department, and they would have the parish president or whatever sign. But there are sub-entities that exist out there that are created by us, and they have a representative that needs to sign, but we've got to give them permission. So the purpose of the resolution is we were going to address this particular problem and future problems with this resolution. We can change the resolution, or we can vote on this one. If it doesn't pass, then we can amend it. I don't, whatever y'all want to do. It's not a big deal.
I just want to ask another question about this. Can the council also apply for grants or not?
Yes,
Can the council do what?
Apply for grants?
Yeah.
And then the
Give me the
chairman
sign.
gets signed.
Give me a
like
sign
that.
for that, Randy.
Got you, Randy.
Well,
Give me that authority and I'll sign it for
well,
you.
listen to me. You got it now. I want broadband on Red Oak
There
Road
you
right
go.
now. I'll
Look,
second it.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution to grant signatory authority to whoever is the current chairman for parish entities to apply for grants.
I second that.
Second, but
I second.
Got a motion by Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Delat. Is there any comments on the public on this? All right, Miss Sandy, why don't you call roll on this?
Mr. Mack,
Yeah.
Mr. Delat,
Yes.
Mr. Talbert,
Yes.
Mr. Keane,
Yes.
Mr. Wascom,
Yes.
Mr. McMorris.
Yes.
Mr. Ard,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Can we go get that sandwich yet?
You're getting close to getting the sandwich.
All right, board reappointments. Livingston Parish Library Board, Mr. Wascom, Mr. Harris, and Mr. King.
Actually, that's a typo. That's Mr. Talbot.
Albert? Okay.
You need to go first?
See you on there first. Go first.
Oh, yep.
All right, I'd like to reappoint Miss Kathy DeGeneres. She lives in Denham Springs. She's taught there for years. Her husband Lloyd DeGeneres is on the Hall of Fame in Denham Springs, so I'm sure most of y'all know him, but I'd like to reappoint Miss Kathy DeGeneres to the board.
Second.
Let's do all of them.
Okay.
We'll do all of them, so. All right, who's next? Mr. Bubba Harris?
Yeah, I'd like to, you want to go back? I'd like to reappoint Ms. Santaford.
Oh, no,
She's
no
not
way.
the one,
She don't want-
she's not
No,
up.
it ain't
She's
that
not
one.
up. It's
It's,
Miss Ivy Graham.
Ivy Graham.
Ivy Graham's the one you gotta reappoint.
Now you got two.
I don't have that right
Look,
there.
Ivory, give it to him.
Okay.
He made some motion.
Yeah, motion to appoint Miss Ivy Graham?
I'll second.
Okay. All
I'd
right,
like to reappoint Miss Debbie Henson. She served two terms, been an active member and done a great, excellent job, so I'd like to appoint her.
okay, so we got a motion from Mr. Delat to reappoint all three?
I
Or
just
Mr.
second
Talbot
somebody's
to
motion.
reappoint all
It doesn't
three?
matter.
Mr. Wascom, you second that to reappoint all three?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Jeff, I got a question concerning that same agenda item. I got one of the biggest libraries in the parish, and I have no representative on the library board. Is there any way to change that,
Well,
Chris?
we need to get with Mr. Bubba Harris. He got all the appointments.
I'll give you one, but you got to give it to me.
Oh, okay.
We'll send y'all a couple books up north.
Well, I mean, I just, everything else, we put 9 commissioners on the planning because we all wanted equal representation. I was just wondering if that's something we could do
It might
by.
be set by state law that sets the number of members.
Okay.
And it may be that y'all just do that voluntarily, you divide up your districts. But it's
Appeal to
not-
the
There's
state,
only
and they're gonna
7,
steal
so-
your appointment.
I mean,
Yeah, let me
of course,
steal your
if you
appointment.
want, look, if you want to go to 9, Mr. Wascom is an expert on how to expand the board. He's done it.
Can you
before.
go to the State House?
Just
for me?
ask Mr. Moody to research what it was going to take to do that.
Advocacy.
Yeah, that'd be
And
fine.
then report back to you, Scooter King.
Appreciate it, John.
right.
Thank you,
I
sir, for
think
helping
John
me
knew how to
out.
do that.
Well, I think John can go see.
All right.
I promise you.
Legislature and handle it.
Let's move on. 35B.
That I
he
had.
knows.
Hey, Fire
Yeah.
Protection District number 7, Mr. McMorris.
So this will be mine for the Coyote Volunteer Fire Department. We're gonna, Mr. Charles Thompson resigned and he moved out of state. We have a member who's gonna take his spot. Sandy, you got his information?
I have all his information, yep.
I have to go back through my emails and get his name. You got it
It's in the
handy?
text message, and I printed it.
Hold on, I'm on to it. Appoint Gerald Crochet.
No, that's a reappointment, Gerald Crochet. Just hang on. I got. Oh, Miss Sandy.
Texted it maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah, I did. Hang on just a second.
What you got it?
Go in. Chris Clark, I think it was. Let me make sure.
I'm down nothing but ice.
Yeah, so it's going to be Christopher Clark. That's going to be the reappointment for Mr. Charles Thompson. All right.
Are you gonna take care of these other reappointments too?
Yeah, so I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to also accept Mr. Donald Sibley and Mr. Gerald Crochet.
So we're gonna reappoint Mr. Crochet and Mr. Sibley. Going to appoint
Mr. Christopher Clark.
Christopher Clark and Mr. Charles Thompson's spot. All right. Second by Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Talbot.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, Mr. McMorris, floor is still yours for District 8 Fire Department.
So I do not have anybody for District 8 at this point. So we just got to table that one.
Just accept the resignation.
We did that already.
We've
We did
already
that
done
already.
that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, we'll just wait till you get an appointment.
Did you get the board updated information from the board on the other one?
We're working on that.
Okay, I just saw it was on there, I just asked.
All right. Committee reports.
Ordinance Committee, I think the only thing we covered pretty much everything, with the exception, I think there's the building line setbacks that are adjacent to future growth corridors and safety requirements of property adjacent to state and federal highways. Did y'all want to do an introduction on that, or? Yeah.
Did you read that?
Which one are you talking about? I got a whole bunch.
This is remember we asked about, one of the members, and as a citizen, had brought us a letter from, Ms. Betts. And, then I think you sent an email? No, did you send the email? Somebody else sent the email? I'm gonna go back and.
Hang on, I got stuff up here.
There was an email sent requesting, verification of how our ordinance was written. And I think the letter, and the response was that Ms. Betts had given recommendations on setbacks which were contrary to what our ordinance recommendation was, so I'm just wondering if we had clarified that.
Now, Mr. Burns, is this in reference to what you had handed us, right?
Excuse me, my name is Gerald Burns. I'm the chairman of the Livingston Parish Master Plan Committee. At the last Ordinance Committee meeting, I think the reference was made about asking the DOT Secretary Sean Wilson for a recommendation on the ordinance that we brought forward. On the second sheet, on May the 31st, I sent an email to Ms. Connie Porter asking her if she hadn't done an opinion yet from Sean Wilson to please do so, and to see if Secretary Sean Wilson or Deputy Secretary Eric Calavuta would weigh in on it. And I asked him to send the response to Mr. Tracy Gerlandhouse, the chairman of the Ordinance Committee meeting, and he did. And at the bottom of the sheet, on number 1, he said that per the request below, we would prefer not to comment directly on local ordinances, but he did go into detail about in rural areas where 120 feet from the center of the road with open ditches. And then in the third paragraph, he says in urban and suburban areas with subsurface drainage and curb and gutter, an offset of 65 feet from the state highway center line on each side is recommended. Then it says for buildings, an additional 6 to 10 feet of offset is recommended since utility poles are often located immediately adjacent to the right-of-way line. Then he says, in addition to new structures, no parking should not be allowed within the setback area since it would have to be removed when the road widening eventually occurs. So I emailed him back in item number 2, and I asked him to clarify that statement on 6 to 10 feet of offset that's recommended. And the question, would that offset be on both sides of the state highway? And number 3, at the top, he says, yes, both lanes, both sides. So he recommends 65 feet from the center line both ways. That's 130 feet. Then he recommends an additional 10 foot. That's 150 foot. And our ordinance is, we're only asking for 140 feet, 20 foot setback on the side and rear. So he's actually recommending more than what we asked for. But our ordinance, when we met with Parish President Leighton Ricks, he only agreed to 20 side and setback and 40 in front of the businesses facing the highway. So I think it's a good recommendation. I don't think it's part of the time we can change it to say 25 feet. We're happy with 20, so I think it was he's happy with doing this. I think this is a good recommendation.
Can I ask a question?
So,
You?
go ahead.
So when you approached us with this from the master plan review, we were sold that it says no parking in that area. We were sold, oh yeah, you can put parking. You can put parking. Now it's saying no.
What he's talking about in the setback from 65 feet out plus 10 more feet.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
So when you had your little drawings and you drove facing the road, oh yeah, well, we got to do it this far so that they can keep the parking.
Well, I was talking about on the side and rear, to set the parking on the side of the building or in the rear of the building, away from the highway. That's what I was talking about then on those two. But if the business or residence is facing the state highway, then you're gonna have to have a driveway accessing the building.
My concern is that if you look at the majority of the road from where we're talking about, look at where the 4-lane indenum is and go all the way to the parish line on the other side of it, most of that road is open ditch, which calls for 120-foot setback on each side.
That's what they're asking for. Yeah.
So
railroad.
And you got railroad on one side, it's not
majority
gonna
of
let that go through.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, I don't mind doing this, but from what Miss Bett's letter said and what the reiteration on the email to you, Tracy, when we talk about curb and gutter versus open ditch, I mean, are we saying that if 190 gets 4-laned all the way to the parish line, it's all gonna be curb and gutter? I don't think that's very practical, because if you look at what's happened on 16 when it got 4-lane, it's still open ditch. So I'm not saying that it can't be. I'm just wondering, are we accomplishing what we intended to do if we only go 140? Because we're already gonna be 10 foot shy of what they recommend based on 165, 165, and then 10 and 10 on each side. We're already 10 foot shy, which, I mean, I think that can be adjusted. My concern is when we get outside of these areas. I mean, basically, you go through the city of Walker, which I know is not our jurisdiction. You know what I'm talking about? Basically, most of that's open ditch. Am I correct? There's no curb and gutter except maybe at the intersection of 447.
Right.
When you go through the town of Livingston, it's open ditch. When you go through the town of, Albany and Holden and all, that's all open ditch. So what makes us think that we know for a fact that just in our development of subdivision ordinances, that open ditch is substantially cheaper to develop over curb and gutter? So my question is, are we creating enough servitude? Because if you ride up Highway 16 out of Watson north and look what 120 foot looks like on both sides, you can see it.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is I don't mind passing ordinance. I just want to be sure that whatever we pass is effectively going to do. And when you look at Miss Betts's letter and you look at the confirmation email behind that, it clearly says on open ditches needs to be 120 feet from the center line on each side. Am I misreading that?
That's right. Let me just say one more thing, in reference to Florida Boulevard from Dillon Springs to past Walker probably would be subsurface drainage, but if you get past Walker to Parish line, I would suspect that the state's probably going to do open ditches. I wouldn't think they're going to be doing curb and gutter, because the highway, the railroad's on the north side, so they can't go north. They got to go south if they're going to widen that road eventually. But that's going to be many years down the road.
The thing that I was going to interject, and if you remember, Gerald, when we did meet with Sean Wilson, Julie Dyson Norris, Denham Springs, but when we met with Sean Wilson and Connie Betts was in that meeting, and Eric, you asked about the open ditches, and we had a long discussion and got a little bit of clarity on that. And like Gerald said, they really want to do they don't want open ditches because they were clear on saying it does take more. So to answer your question, I think really, if, from what I heard in that meeting and clarity on that, was that they don't want open ditches anymore.
Y'all feel based on that letter that if we go the 140 feet, which is
I
written
do.
in this ordinance, that we'll be good?
I think we'll be better than.
Well, our ordinance doesn't address the 120 feet center. That's the 120 feet center. That's a different part. He addresses that in the second paragraph, but he addresses our issue in the third paragraph. So he talks about 120 feet from the east side with open ditches. That ain't what our ordinance does.
I can tell you what, I know the difference between urban and suburban, and there's some sections on 190 between Denham Springs and the Parish line that are definitely rural. And so, I mean, I'm not, but if you are confident that 140 is significant, is gonna be significant and help us in this deal,
Our original ordinance would have been 100 plus 33, it was 160. And that's the one the parish president vetoed.
Mr. Chairman.
That's the one we wanted. Now, Dr. Eric Galabodi recommends 150 feet, which is 25 more feet than we're asking for on rear and side setback. If the parish president would give us 5 more feet, I say yes. But then you're gonna need on when building face the road, instead of 40 in our ordinance, we're going to have to go to 50. So I would rather do that if the parish president would sign it.
Mr. Delat.
This is to Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns, I got the same email probably everybody on this, sitting on this table got. There's someone contesting what you are saying. Have you met with a Mr.
Good gosh.
Joshua Ebard?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Joshua Ebard.
Joshua Ebard. Have you met with him on this? He says that he has information that's different than what you said and you are ignoring him, is what he's basically said in email.
Well, I tried. We tried to bring him before the master plan committee, and he refused to do that. And I did try to meet with him the Friday after that date and sit down with him and let him explain to us what's going on, and he refused to do that. So I did reach out to him.
Okay.
Twice.
Okay.
I really wanted to hear what he had to say, but he refused to do it. So I don't know, perhaps he could have shared something then that within the master plan committee.
Is he here tonight? No? Okay. I wouldn't know if I see him either.
But I don't know what he's talking about, really. He sent us some emails, and there was just emails, and there was 30 items and diagrams and stuff, and I don't know what that meant.
Okay.
But I did try to reach out to him.
Get an email? I didn't get an email.
I seen it was addressed to all the councilmen, that's why I just asked. I seen the email was addressed to all the councilmen, and that's why I asked what, if y'all had.
I would really rather him come through the master plan committee and say what he wants to say, and let us learn from him about what ideas that he had, but he refused to do so. He didn't want to be on video, he said.
Okay.
Make a motion to defer to introduction till we get, I would like to speak to this gentleman too, because I got an email from him. And I tried calling him too. But I mean, I do think I would be more willing to go with what Parish President, his recommendation on that, although I would like the extra 5 feet, but I do have questions in terms of, look, whatever occurs, if we ever come to this magical place where we can do that, you know, the city of Walker is going to have to comply. You know, they're not going to let it just come to their door frame and stop. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So they'll have to comply with that. So
We're going to have a bigger problem in town of Livingston.
yeah. So,
'Cause it's not open ditches on one side.
I'm going to get with the administration and Walker again, and we'll try to figure out something from there. But I would like to defer this introduction until next meeting.
All right.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna do the first. Don't think we have to vote on that, huh?
No.
Without a date.
All right.
Okay.
Did you say the next meeting?
One day,
Yes.
one day we're gonna get it done.
We had it done.
It's only been 6
All
months.
right, item 2.
What's that?
You want to defer it, is that what you
We already
said?
did,
defer.
The June 23rd.
To June
Okay, what would
23rd.
that accomplish if you deferred it? I mean, you don't want to do the ordinance, or?
We deferred it.
I think we wanna do it, we'll just make sure we got everybody's input.
Might modify
all
it a
the
little bit.
information.
Would you rather send it back to the master plan committee and,
That won't do any good.
and actually meet with the parish president and see if he would add 5 more feet?
Do that. We send it to the ordinance committee?
So in essence,
Yeah.
if you go 66, we 2 foot short.
Yeah, I'd like, can we adjust that, Sandy?
That's who sent the
Send it back, or
Send it to the,
or we don't even have to. We can
Ordinance
just
committee.
add it to the ordinance committee meeting, and then we'll have that, so that's what we'll do. Okay.
you come to the next ordinance committee meeting.
Sir?
Come to the next ordinance committee meeting.
Okay, all right, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. So item 2 is amend chapter 117 zoning, creation of zoning authority. Something we also discussed in here at the meeting, at the ordinance committee meeting earlier. Yeah, I would like to introduce this. Yeah, I would like an introduction, basically creating the authority who handles zoning, which would be, we're going to typically make planning and zoning, and give them the authority, the only exceptions being any variance or rezoning. Something has to be rezoned, it comes to us, it comes to the council, and any variance off of the zoning category that is established for that particular piece of property in question comes to us, has to come to the council.
You make that motion?
I do.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Gardenhouse, second by Mr. Talbot. Is there any comments on this?
Yeah, where do we see that?
You don't?
No, that's in a committee, coming out of the ordinance committee.
Yeah. This-
Can I read it if
Yes.
y'all are introducing it?
Yes.
And you're making a motion in a second this time to
Yes, we-
introduce it?
Already did.
Yep.
This will be proposed ordinance 22-28. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 117 zoning and for the parish of Livingston. Public hearing will be held at 6 PM on June 23rd.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, Finance Committee.
Yeah, we didn't meet. We'll meet on the 23rd. Thank you, Caroline. Remind me. Are we gonna, no, we don't have to. Didn't we make that yet? I can't remember.
Moratorium?
No, we need to put that on there to make it quarterly, unless there's something that Jennifer needs us to know in between. Because, I mean, it's just,
Ordinance then.
Yeah, we'll have to amend the ordinance, so
Yeah.
we need to take that up in the ordinance
yeah.
committee.
Fix that, Tracy.
Is that my ordinance or my home rule charter that thing's got to meet?
Ordinance.
I think y'all should meet once a week like us.
Home rule charter does require a certain amount of not meetings, reports. You actually wouldn't have to meet if you didn't want to.
Well, she said she's gonna send them all out after we change it every month to the councilman, so you'll get it, just like we were having a meeting. All we do is look at check registers and it's.
That's all the charter requires.
Yeah, long as we follow that, Randy, we'll be good.
All right, Mr. Chris, tell us what you get paid for.
No
Yeah,
report.
no, nothing.
Nothing?
That don't sound right.
All right,
Contrary to what Mr. Chris says, I think he's been pretty busy the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Councilman comments. Mr. Ladd, you made these people wait around for this announcement. Let's go.
I made a mistake, no.
We'll never hear that. Wait.
Basically, guys, I got 3 more ordinances to introduce, and I'm gonna be through with the 3 I have. But we still have time left. If y'all have something, get it to me, or any other, councilman you wanna get it to. Any ideas, any intent, get it to me as quick as possible so we can hurry up and wrap this up. And I'm gonna tell you something now. Everybody told me don't say this, but I'm gonna say it. I'm going to be for removing the moratorium as soon as I can, so we need to work quickly. There are some businesses that are not big developers that are being suffered and want to come into this parish, and I don't want to hold those people back, and they tied into this. So as soon as we get all this stuff done, that we can get done, I'm going to make a motion that we lift the moratorium. And I just want y'all to know in advance, you heard it from me, you didn't hear it from nobody else. So that was what I had to ask.
Mr. McMorris, you got something? I'm gonna go down the line.
Yes. All right, so I mentioned earlier during my prayer for my brother-in-law, John, John Cutway. If you could write his name down, he could use the prayers. So that's Cheryl's brother. So he's pretty bad shape. All right.
We'll do that.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Harris, you got anything?
Nothing.
Mr. Garlinghouse? Mr. Wascom?
Ready to go home.
Mr. Mack?
You need to sign it?
Mr. King?
I do. June 11th, this Saturday, North Park is a food truck festival. It's free to the public. Gonna have Wayne Toots, Tracy Bird, bunch of different guys starting at like noon, Parish County line. Come out, enjoy the food trucks. Come see all of us in my district, and it'll be a great day. It's gonna be hot, so bring you a hat.
What kind of music is that?
It's gonna be a little bit of everything, but mostly country.
Not your kind. Mr. Talbot?
Oh, look,
Extra
guys,
ones.
I mean, I know there's been a lot of animosity, you know, during this situation of moratorium and some of these trying to resolve some of these issues. I think tonight the council did an excellent job working together.
Thank you, guys.
We accomplished a lot of stuff. We got some things pushed through. There was some give and take, and I think we moved in the right direction. Hopefully, audience saw that we're, trying to move forward and get some of these issues resolved that need to be resolved. And that's all I want to say.
I got one thing I want to add, and I kind of want some feedback from the council on this. I've been noticing that every time we get the councilman comments, that there's a lot of things that people need to hear. And we've got people that's done left. They probably turned the TV station off. They're not watching anymore. I would like to move that to the top of the agenda, where that when we have announcements like this to be made, that everyone
can hear
hears it. So
Hey, that's up to you.
We'll be moving
You're the
that to the
chairman.
top.
That's what you want.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good with that, and a case in point is that his thing going on, the Springfield Fire Department has a poker run, and they use this to operate their department with, so I want to make sure everyone knows about that this Saturday.
You had something going on this weekend too. Denham
All right,
Springs
Mr. Butler,
Athletic
tell us what
Association
you're here
golf
for.
tournament.
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
I am, but just 1 second.
All right.
I just hope
You don't have to look at me.
hope I can make it the rest of the year without missing another meeting.
Well, I hope so too.
We got your back, brother.
Yep.
Yeah. We got you. We got you. All right, now you want to make that motion for me?
Make it.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Tracy. All in favor? Aye.